Green tea. Beige. You think this is still the past life. In my previous life, I risked my life to go beat up the school bully, only for her to go around telling everyone I was a simp all day, and even teamed up with the school bully to file a vicious complaint against me in front of the teacher, causing me to not only get a disciplinary record, but also miss the turning point of my destiny for the college entrance exam. The most ridiculous thing is that after graduating high school, she actually got together with the school bully, and even married him, but now that I've been reborn, how could I possibly ruin my own reputation and future for your sake again? At this moment in the teacher's office, listening to the two of them making their claims, I actually found it laughable. In my past life, I tried very hard to refute them, but in the end, it all failed. At first, I didn't quite understand why the teacher wouldn't believe me, but later on, I finally understood right from the very start. This so-called questioning was just going through the motions. Zhao Tianlei was the son of the dean of students, and the head teacher definitely knew about it. So no matter how much I explained myself, it was useless, and the other party wouldn't face any punishment anyway. Besides, Chen Siru wasn't on my side at all. Sure enough, the head teacher, Song Wenbo, after getting Chen Siru's response, immediately nodded and said, "I understand. You two can head back first." Head teacher Song Wenbo said helplessly, "Lin Yifei, what am I supposed to say about you? Your academic scores aren't bad either. How could you drop the ball at such a critical moment like the senior year of high school? Even if you like Chen Siru, you can wait until after graduation to chase after her. Do you know that directly hitting someone like this is wrong? The punishment for this matter has already been finalized. You will write a 500-word self-reflection and then receive a disciplinary notice announced across the entire school. There are still a little over 100 days until the college entrance exam. Don't ruin your own life over this kind of matter." While I, on the other hand, spoke with a completely expressionless face. What if I refuse? Hearing this, head teacher Song Wenbo immediately snapped. He widened his eyes and said, "What did you say? Refuse. Do you know how big of a mistake you've made? Fighting is wrong to begin with. And at this critical juncture of the college entrance exam, it's already considered a blessing that the other family didn't pursue your responsibility. And let me tell you, regardless of whether you write the self-reflection or not, you're going to get a disciplinary record anyway. If you're unwilling to admit your mistake, then I'll have no choice but to call your parents over." At this moment, however, I just smiled. And then the head teacher, right on his computer, opened the student's parent information records, found my mother's phone number, and called her directly. To be honest, I really couldn't care less, compared to all the grievances I endured in my past life, where even the college entrance exam was completely botched. That was what truly letting down my parents felt like. Now there is nothing left that can block my footsteps. Anyway, no matter what you say, there's no way I'm going to confess to a mistake I didn't make. I'll say it again, I did nothing wrong. What the truth actually is, you know in your heart better than anyone else. Discipline me if you want, see if I care. After finishing those words, I turned around and walked straight out of the office. Are you kidding me? A dignified reborn person like me is going to be afraid of this. Now that I've been reborn back to my senior year of high school, I will absolutely never lower my head and admit fault again. Furthermore, back then when I failed the college entrance exam and missed out on getting into university, I suffered a massive blow to my entire being. Right now, those college entrance exam questions are still vividly etched in my mind. And I swear that all that glory which rightfully belongs to me, I'm going to take it all back. When I returned to the classroom, the whole class was buzzing. How did it go? How did it go? A few classmates I was close with crowded around, asking me about the situation from all directions. While I just chuckled, how do you think it went? They made me write a self-reflection and apologize, and then slapped me with a school-wide public criticism disciplinary notice. However, I told the teacher that there's no way I'm writing it. After saying that, I sat down, took out my books, and prepared to review properly to consolidate my knowledge. Sunfei next to me gave me a thumbs up and grinned, "Absolute badass. You actually told him you won't write the self-reflection." "What did the teacher say?" I asked with an indifferent tone. "I called my parents." However, when Chen Siru heard this, she actually grew nervous instead. She immediately walked over, pulled me along, and brought me out to the hallway. Chen Siru anxiously tried to persuade me. "How can you reject the teacher's request? If you don't write the self-reflection, what are we going to do if things blow up? I know I lied and you must be angry, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't want him to either. But just think about it. With both of us getting punished, isn't it better than just you getting punished alone? Are you happy only if I get punished too?" Chen Siru put on a pitiful and pleading look, hoping to persuade me to shoulder this whole thing. In my past life, because of her persuasion, I ended up bearing everything all by myself and turned into a total absolute clown. But this time, how could I possibly make the same mistake again? What if I still refuse? Besides, don't you dislike Zhao Tianlei? Why are you still helping him? Chensiru anxiously explained, I'm not helping him. I just don't want things to get too complicated. If you don't want to write the self-reflection, I can help you write it. Just apologize to the teacher. Won't this matter just blow over? Does everyone really have to call their parents for it to work? Chensiru couldn't help but grab my arm. Her eyes filled with pleading. She acted all pitiful and begged, I'm begging you. I really don't want my parents to find out. If you help me out, I can promise you. I asked with a matching tone, promise you what? Chensiru bit her lip and muttered, don't you like me? I can give you a chance to pursue me. I instantly burst out laughing. Sorry, you'd better save that chance for someone else. After saying that, I turned around and walked back into the classroom. In my past life, I was blind. Did she really think I'd continue being blind in this life? Besides, if I'm going to chase someone, I'll chase a genuine moonlight. Who would pick a green tea bitch like you? Suddenly, a light flashed in my eyes. At this time, that girl should still be getting bullied at the neighboring school. Not long after, the head teacher called me to the office again. At this moment, seeing my mother looking at me with somewhat complicated feelings, it was clear she never expected that her own child would actually get into a fight over early romance. After all, for such a long time, I had always been the relatively well-behaved and obedient child, whose academic scores were consistently excellent. I've already told your mother about your matter. You can explain it clearly to her yourself. Mother, Hiyakin let out a sigh, pulled her child over to the corner of the office and asked, Mom, it's like this. I leaned right into my mother's ear and whispered the explanation, finally even taking out my phone to open the text message Chensiru had sent me. Mom was furious upon seeing it. After all this time, her own son had been framed. Mother Hiyakin angrily said, how can this girl lie like this? Mom immediately took the phone and handed it right in front of head teacher Song Wenbo, refuting regarding this matter. My son really didn't lie, and he didn't rush over just from seeing a moment's post either. It was this female classmate who claimed she was being harassed herself, and my son only went over because he couldn't stand watching it. Head teacher Song Wenbo's eyes widened as well, not expecting there to be such chat records. However, he immediately gritted his teeth and said, this lying business is indeed wrong. But Lin Yifei hitting someone is a fact. Moreover, the one he hit is an athletic student. If the other person's hands or feet got injured, wouldn't his exams be delayed? Subsequently, head teacher Song Wenbo started lecturing me again. Lin Yifei, the teacher is only asking you to reflect on your mistake of hitting someone. No matter what, you can't hit people, right? As for Chensiru lying, the teacher will definitely discipline her too, setting aside all of that. You were also in the wrong, weren't you? I chuckled and replied, ha 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 ha. In setting aside all of that, so badass. Who would have thought a teacher could actually say something like that? Teacher setting aside worldly matters? Is there any possibility I'm Qin Shi Huang originally? Why on earth should they only punish me alone? Why not just punish all three of us together and issue a joint disciplinary notice? I couldn't care less. Head teacher Song Wenbo was pushed to the absolute limit of his anger. Look at this kid. After making a mistake, he doesn't have an ounce of an attitude to admit fault, and he even dares to talk back to me. In my opinion, a 1 of 500 word self-reflection isn't even enough. You'll write at least a 3,000 word self-reflection, along with a school-wide public criticism notice. You don't have the slightest intention of repenting. While I retorted right back, teacher. Anyway, Zhao Tianlei definitely won't get a public disciplinary notice. Right. Are you even sure you're fit to be a teacher? Hearing this, the head teacher stood straight up and yelled furiously, Lin Yifei, you even dare to curse at your teacher now, huh? Watching head teacher Song Wenbo critique the student's family member beside him, he said, you saw it too. What kind of attitude does this kid have right now? I don't even want to handle this anymore. Let's go straight to the disciplinary office. Going to the disciplinary office, what's the use? Do you think I don't know that Zhao Tianlei is the son of the head of the disciplinary office? Is he going to let his own son suffer a loss or something? As soon as these words came out, the whole place completely blew up. Half an hour later, inside the office of the head of the disciplinary office, Director Liu Cheng pulled a long face and criticized, everything you guys said over at the teacher's office just now, I'm already aware of it. You must be Lin Yifei's parent, right? Let's not talk about who's right and who's wrong for a moment. Let's talk strictly about the issue of attitude. Furthermore, he even talked back to the teacher. His head teacher was so angered his heart started acting up. Is this any way to act? And what was that about? Is he going to let his son suffer a loss? If my son makes a mistake, I criticize him just the same. I scold him just the same. I beat him just the same. I'm gonna beat the crap out of this punk the moment I get home. However, I'm putting it out there first. Lin Yifei must apologize to the teacher and must recite a 3,000 word self-reflection in front of the whole school. This kind of behavior of his is already far too egregious. If he cannot recognize his mistake and turn over a new leaf, then our school won't be able to teach him either. Hearing that final sentence, Mother Hee instantly grew worried. Director, what do you mean by that? Are you going to expel my son? This is already senior year. Director Liu Qiang sat there and criticized unhappily. Look at him. He doesn't even put teachers in his eyes, and even had the nerve to say they're not fit to be teachers. With a student like this, tell me how we're supposed to teach him. It's not that we don't want to teach him. We're truly powerless, Mother Hee explained. I know the child has a somewhat stubborn temper, but... Before she could finish her sentence, I suddenly blurted out, Mom, it's no big deal. If worse comes to worse, I'll transfer schools. Anyway, I'm already sick of staying at First High. Second High, right next door, isn't bad either. Director Liu Qiang was also pissed off to no end, and he couldn't help pointing at me as he cursed, Look at him! Look at him, Lin Yifei's mother. I'll give him one last chance right now. Either earnestly reflect on his own mistakes, or drop out. I smiled. I'm done attending this crappy First High anyway. After this matter spread out, the entire class was in an uproar. Are you crazy, transfer schools? If you transfer now, what are you going to do about your college entrance exam? If worse comes to worse, just write a self-reflection and admit you were wrong. Several classmates I was relatively close with all came over one after another to persuade me. After all, the college entrance exam was a major life-determining event. The head teacher just told me, if you're willing to write the 3,000-word self-reflection, take the demerit and apologize to him, this matter will just be dropped. Otherwise, our whole class won't even be able to have chemistry class, Liu Xian said speechlessly. That's right. You getting into a fight and getting disciplined is one thing. Why are you dragging us down with you? Can't you just apologize? Why should the whole class be unable to have classes just because of you? Even Chen Siru said that the teacher wasn't even angry anymore, yet you just had to go pick a fight with the teacher. And did you put Chen Siru in a spot where she's gonna get punished too? It wasn't enough for you to get a demerit alone. Now Chen Siru even has to call her parents. Are you happy now? Look, Chen Siru is even crying. She said her parents are already on their way to the school. Are you even a man? How can you make a girl cry like that? Right at that moment, everyone suddenly quieted down. Vice Principal Guo Haibo coughed twice, and then spoke up, Who is Lin Yifei? Step outside for a moment. The classmates all cast complicated expressions my way, and shortly after I walked out into the hallway to talk privately with Vice Principal Guo Haibo. I thought it was going to be a friendly negotiation, but never did I expect it to be a full-on rant. He kept saying that even if a teacher wronged you, you still couldn't point out the teacher's faults. Did I think that just because I had decent grades, I was hot stuff? Immediately followed by a furious roar. Our First High doesn't lack students like you at all. If you don't want to study, then get out and don't study. While I responded completely expressionlessly, all right. Vice Principal Go Haibo instantly got so angry. He was gasping for air. It was truly his first time running into such an asshole of a student, so he cursed outright, get expelled. And right at that moment, Chen Siru's parents finally arrived. Yet instead of criticizing and educating their daughter first, they immediately tried to clear their daughter of any association. Then pulled a long face and pointed a finger right at me. What kind of piece of shut are you, saying our child lied? Teacher, you must transfer this kid away. He cannot be allowed to stay in the same class as our Siru. I see he's still harassing Siru too. When my mother heard that, she was furious beyond belief. Just as she was about to retort, I spoke up directly, I'm dropping out. Mom, you don't need to worry. After dropping out, my academic scores are only going to get better. At that moment, the physics teacher Ching Chu Hui nearby let out a sigh and said originally there was another physics competition next month, and I was planning to recommend you to participate. This competition is a great opportunity. Once you get a score with your level, who knows, you might even get extra points for the college entrance exam. There's only one slot per class. If you drop out, this slot can only be given to someone else. Chen Siru's mother shamelessly smiled and said, Teacher, that competition even gives extra points for the college entrance exam. Then look at our Siru, how is she? Why not let her give it a try? Physics teacher Ching Chu Hui awkwardly smiled. Well, her physics grades are just average. 2 days later, holding the withdrawal application form, I found the head teacher for his signature. Yeah, you really ruined your entire life. Head teacher Song Wenbo couldn't help criticizing. I've never seen a student like you. Considering your grades are pretty good, I was actually going to sign you up for the chemistry competition. Watch me reply with an indifferent expression, Teacher, if you apologize to me right now, I might consider staying to help you participate in the chemistry competition, and I can even put your name on the award. Head teacher Song Wenbo's face instantly turned dark. Get out, get out, get out! He signed the withdrawal application right on the spot. Take this to the disciplinary office, get the director's signature, and then hand it in at the principal's office. That'll be it. Moments later, I arrived at the disciplinary office. Dropping out, huh? After that, he signed the withdrawal application. Once he finished signing, he didn't forget to mock me a few times. Finally, I arrived at the principal's office. However, this time the one I was looking for was Principal Jung. I took a deep breath and spoke up, "Hello, Principal. I'm Lin Yifei, applying for withdrawal. Sorry to trouble you for your signature." I handed the application form over. Principal Liu Shenyun frowned and glanced at the reason for application on the form. Conflict with the English teacher, unable to study, applying for withdrawal. "You're that student who talked back to the teacher, right? What a pity." Principal Liu Shenyun also felt it was a pity that a rare student with decent grades was dropping out just like this. But with this kind of behavior involving fighting and brawling, plus talking back to teachers, and didn't even put the director in their eyes, truly cannot be kept. The corners of my mouth curled up slightly, and suddenly a flash of inspiration hit me. "Principal, I heard First High is applying to be a provincial key demonstration school. If you need me, just have the head teacher and the disciplinary director apologize to me, and I might consider it." Yet at that moment, Principal Liu Shenyun gave me a side eye. This was the first time someone dared to make demands like this to him. It was extreme arrogance, get lost, insolent, and talking back to teachers. And you even dare to make a teacher apologize to you. He immediately signed off on approving my withdrawal. Returning to the classroom as I finished packing my things and prepared to leave, seatmate Sunfei let out a sigh and lamented, "We're doomed. There won't even be anyone to copy homework from anymore." I rolled my eyes and scolded with a smile, "You damn well only know how to copy homework. Can't you study it yourself?" Sunfei explained my tuition grades. "Well, they're hopeless anyway. What can I do?" I remembered in my past life, Sunfei was one of the few classmates I was relatively close with. And even after I botched the college entrance exam, the two of us coincidentally ended up attending university in the same city. Moreover, it was also Sunfei who told me that he found out Chen Siru and Zhao Tianlei were dating. Anyway, not long after graduation, word spread that the two of them were getting married, and both sides invited quite a few high school classmates to attend. In the end, I turned out to be the only clown. Thinking back on it now, it still feels ridiculous and laughable. And right at that moment, Sunfei secretly glanced at Chen Siru in the distance, and then quietly started complaining. I heard Chen Siru's mother even came to the classroom to chat with other classmates, asking everyone to keep an eye out and not let you harass Chen Siru anymore. Hearing those words, I smiled. Whatever. I'm transferring schools anyway. Finally, the school dismissal bell rang, and everyone started packing their things, while I too was about to leave this school. As I turned and walked out the classroom door, I was called out to with a "hey." At that moment, Chen Siru hesitated and said, "I didn't mean to ruin you. She watched me finally end up dropping out, and her conscience seemed to still feel a tiny bit guilty. I turned my head back to look at Chen Siru, and with a completely expressionless face, I spoke up, "To be honest, when you lied to the teacher, I was indeed really angry. I never expected you to be this kind of person." Chen Siru looked like she wanted to cry out of grievance as she said, "How could I possibly deliberately ruin you?" Looking at this female classmate in front of me, my heart no longer held any of that original fondness for the other person. Explaining was nothing more than covering things up anyway. At her core, she was never any good. I couldn't even help cursing, "You're such a BT Chi. Go ahead and delete each other with Zhao Tianlei." After saying that, I turned around and walked away. These words had been pent up inside my heart for so long, so long. Even when the two of them got married, I had imagined cursing them out countless times. Yet in the end, it was only ever imagination. Never did I expect to actually have the chance to say it today. Turns out being reborn is seriously fucking satisfying. This Laozi no longer has to live in repressed grievance. After returning home, the very first thing I did was open my computer, then log into First High School forum, and find my own post, "Very sorry. Due to personal reasons, Little Friend's withdrawal will have to temporarily pause updates." During the few days since I had been reborn, using my spare time, I had posted a web novel on the school forum. Originally, it was just for fun, to see if I had any talent for writing novels. Yet I never expected that transferring schools would come so suddenly. Since I was leaving First High anyway, there was no need to keep updating on the forum, right? For this reason, I specially left a message there for my readers, who had previously seen the hiatus announcement. After the post, a large wave of fan comments appeared. "Why did you suddenly pause updates?" or "Hoping you can resume updates soon." Looking at these comments, I instantly smiled. It seems I still have a bit of talent after all. In the blink of an eye, Monday arrived, and I successfully transferred from First High to Second High. Although Second High's teaching faculty and resources were comparable to First High's, its university acceptance rate was slightly worse. At this moment, Dad, who was driving, pulled a long face and said, "You really know how to cause a ruckus, scaring your grandpa half to death. Good thing Second High said they were willing to take you in. Otherwise, I would have broken your legs." In the blink of an eye, the car arrived at the gates of Second High. since my academic grades were still alright. It didn't take long to finish the transfer procedures, and even my class had already been assigned. Class 4 of senior year was second highest science key class, and the head teacher, Liang Yuting, was an English teacher. The director led me to find class 4 of senior year, and head teacher Liang Yuting. After the head teacher finished introducing my glorious history, she turned around and walked away, while I brought up a tiny little request. Teacher, I want to sit next to Wen Menqi, is that okay? At this, head teacher Liang Yuting paused for a moment. Wen Menqi, you know her? My former classmate, I know her. Head teacher Liang Yuting also smiled and said, sure. Chatting along the way, we arrived at the classroom door and found the math teacher inside having the students do test papers. She nodded politely, then led me into the classroom, saying to the students, let me introduce the transfer student who has joined our class. After finishing, head teacher Liang Yuting told me to step forward myself and do a self-introduction. Hello everyone, my name is Lin Yufei. My academic grades are just so-so. However, my moral character is exceptional, and I never fight. Hearing this, the head teacher standing nearby almost burst out laughing, then said, from now on, Lin Yufei is transferring over to join our class, and he will temporarily sit next to Wen Menqi. As soon as those words fell, a blank-looking girl wearing glasses raised her head and glanced over. Actually, this was also the very first time I saw Wen Menqi, but I could immediately tell at a glance that Wen Menqi gave off a very reserved and timid vibe. In the classroom, she belonged to the type who spoke little, didn't know much about socializing, and perhaps even ended up being the kind of girl bullied by other students. This kind of girl often kept a very low profile in the classroom, possessing almost no presence. However, after graduation, when everyone looked back, they would realize they had misjudged her terribly. Many alumni from the same cohort and even classmates from the same class were completely flabbergasted. Even someone like him who graduated from first high had heard plenty of news about her, which showed just how high Wen Menqi's reputation was back then. At this moment, I proactively walked over and then helped move my own desk and chair over next to Wen Menqi. After sitting down, the math teacher conveniently handed me a test paper as well. You should do this one too. We'll go over it in class tomorrow. Got it, teacher. No one expected that after the class dismissal bell rang, me, the transfer student, would instantly become like an animal being watched in a zoo. Even students from the neighboring classes all came out into the hallway to watch the show, pointing fingers all around. Is that really him? I just asked my cousin at first high. I heard he got into a fight with an athletic student, then talked back to the teacher, and ended up forced to drop out. No, it seems it was because he was chasing a girl that he fought with someone, only for that girl to not like him at all. Dying of laughter. Isn't that just a total simp? I never expected that even after transferring schools, because of the fight caused by Chen Xiru, I still carried the reputation of a simp. At this moment, physics class representative Wei Yingjie took the initiative to come up and say hello. Okay, classmate, you're pretty badass for getting into a fight and dropping out at first high. A female classmate who looked quite pretty walked over instead. Shen Xinyue smiled and said, Wei Yingjie, you didn't know, did you? He was chasing first high's school bell, and even beat up an athletic student over this matter. Word has it that athletic student was even the teacher's son, which is why he was forced to drop out. By the way, I actually know Chen Xiru. I looked at this new classmate with some surprise. You know Chen Xiru and I used to be primary school classmates. Following that, I curled my lips and muttered, then this transfer was for nothing. No wonder ever since I transferred over from first high, before my ass could even get warm, my background got completely exposed. Shen Xinyu blinked her eyes and suddenly asked with anticipation, do you want to try giving up on Chen Xiru and chase me instead? The surrounding classmates all laughed out loud. What about Jing Yansong then? Chen Xinyu retorted. I never agreed to go out with Zheng Yansong. Plus, I happen to like top academic students. He was in the top 11 of his grade at first high. So coming to our school, he'll definitely be in the top 3. Besides, I think he's pretty funny. Clearly a top student, yet during his self-introduction, he said his academic grades were just so-so and clearly dropped out because of fighting. Yet he said he never fights. Chen Xinyu looked at me with eyes full of anticipation. How about it? Or I could chase you instead? I feel like you might just be my type. Besides, I'm different from Chen Xiru. If someone was willing to fight for me, I'd be moved to tears alright. I carefully sized up Shen Xinyue. Not gonna lie, among high school students, she really could be considered a pretty decent little hottie. Once she goes to college and puts on a little makeup, she's definitely class flower material. However, right at that moment, a voice suddenly chimed in. Isn't he just a total simp? The girl didn't like him at all, yet he still went and fought others for her, and ended up getting disciplined and forced to drop out. Isn't he an idiot? Zheng Yansong glanced sideways at me, then put on a warning look. You'd better stay as far away from Shinyue as possible. After saying that, he led a group of classmates hugging basketballs and walked outside. If it were my past life, I might actually have been scared shitless by his badass warning. After all, with his whole delinquent youth posture, he looked like someone you didn't want to mess with. But now seeing these kinds of badass students, it just felt utterly comical. To be honest, those people who acted all arrogant and tough back in school, when you go check on them after graduation, you realize they're really nothing special after all. And pretty female classmates usually either end up divorced with kids or straight up married to some wealthy older uncle. Thinking up to this point, I glanced back over at Wenmenki, who was blankly lowering her head to do homework. My own cute and dorky little sugar mommy is still the best. Then I directly slumped over my desk and tentatively asked, "What about you? Do you know me too?" Wenmenki froze in a daze for a second, then started shaking her head. "That's good. Then let's reintroduce ourselves. My name is Lin Yifei." Wenmenki looked somewhat nervously at this transfer student, then glanced back at Jung Yansong, who had just walked out. "Can you fight?" "I can't. They're just talking nonsense." Then you should be careful." Why? Wenmenki asked with a hint of worry in her voice. "Because Jung Yansong might beat you up." At this I paused for a second. Jung Yansong, is that the guy who was just talking to me?" Wenmenki warned very earnestly. "Really, because Jung Yansong likes Shen Xinyue." While I unbothered and unhurried said, "No worries. He won't go that far. Do you have a boyfriend?" That sudden question made Wenmenki freeze, staring wide-eyed and dumbfounded at this transfer student, before shaking her head to indicate she didn't. Right on the heels of that, with a flash in my eyes, I pressed on, "What do you think of me then? Do you want to be with me?" Menki got the fright of her life, turning bright red instantly, and stammered nervously, I have a math problem I don't get. I'm going to go ask the teacher." And with that, Wenmenki grabbed a math test paper and bolted straight out of the classroom. Looking at Wenmenki's kind of personality, she probably had never even had a guy confess to her before, let alone ever encounter someone as direct as myself. She definitely got scared out of her mind. For some reason, I felt a special kind of expectant thrill. Perhaps life at Second High really is going to be super interesting. Right until the classroom bell rang, Wenmenki nervously returned to the class. She didn't even dare to raise her head, hugging her test papers straight back to her seat. Clearly regarding those words earlier that sounded almost like a confession, she was both nervous, timid, and shy, having no idea how to handle it at all. Soon after, the English teacher walked into the classroom, raised her head to glance at me, and with a stern expression spoke up. "Just now, I heard that someone was spreading gossip about the new student. I don't care how things were in the past, but once you've come to our class, you are a member of our class. I don't want to see anyone talking behind their peers. All right, I'm handing out the test papers. Today we're doing reading comprehension, and once you're done, I'll go over the answers." Clearly, the English teacher Liang Yuting had also heard some of the bad words floating around about me transferring here, so during class she specifically criticized those individuals. During the course of the class, I was pleasantly surprised to discover one thing: my own English proficiency completely crushed high school students of the same level, although I bombed during the college entrance exam. No matter what, back in university, I was someone who had passed the CET 6 exam as well. So whether it was vocabulary size, various grammatical structures, English writing ability, reading comprehension, and so on, it was far too much stronger than ordinary high school students. Going through a reading test paper, I only missed a single question. In my past life, I performed below standard and only scored 112 points in English, whereas if I performed normally, I could score around 125. But in this life, I felt I had a huge amount of confidence to score above 140 points. After all, I had two major inherent advantages. First, studying bitterly for English exams and graduate entrance exams back in university, memorizing countless words, and second, I even knew the actual college entrance exam questions. Up on the podium, English teacher Liang Yuting suddenly spoke up. "Alright, everyone's gone over the answers as well. There are a total of 25 questions. Raise your hands if you missed 5 questions or fewer." Swish, instantly quite a few classmates raised their hands. I swept a glance over them. Out of 48 people in the class, 8 people raised their hands, meaning those individuals only missed 5 questions. It seemed the proficiency level of a key class really wasn't that terribly different from First High. Missed 4 questions or fewer as soon as those words came out. 3 people put their hands down, leaving only 5 people in the class with their hands raised. These were all the students in the class whose English proficiency had reached the top tier. However, to my slight surprise, that female classmate who had proactively struck up a conversation with me earlier, Shen Xinyu, also raised her hand. It seemed the other person's English grades were genuinely quite good. Missed 3 questions or fewer of the remaining 5 people. Surprisingly, only a single person raised their hand. English teacher Liang Yuting smiled and asked, Shen Yue, how many did you miss? Teacher, I missed 2 questions. English teacher Liang Yuting nodded and smiled. Not bad. The difficulty of this test paper is actually quite high. They're all pulled from past real college entrance exam questions. Finally, Liang Yuting suddenly glanced back at me again and asked curiously, Lin Yifei, your English grades shouldn't be bad. How many did you miss? As soon as those words fell, everyone turned their gazes toward me, waiting for my answer, figuring I should keep a slightly low profile since I just transferred. I casually replied, Teacher, I missed quite a lot. Didn't perform well. It's fine. Your seatmate Wen Menqi is good at English. You can ask her if there's anything you don't understand. A flash crossed my eyes as I said, That's great. I have too many things I don't understand. Wen Mengqi instantly grew nervous, feeling a guilty conscience as she said, Teacher, I'm not very good at teaching people. Clearly, I had scared her off earlier, and she didn't even dare to look in my direction right now. Shen Xinyu, however, proactively chimed in, I can do it, teacher. I'm the English class representative. I can teach the new student. After finishing, Shen Xinyue blinked at me and flashed what she thought was a charming smile. Right after that, I said, no need. Wen Mengqi can just teach me. However, right at this moment, Zheng Yensong sat there and said with a delinquent vibe, and you call yourself a top student. You're really nothing special. Someone who misses more than 5 questions on this kind of test paper probably can't even score 120 on the actual exam, right? And here I thought the great first high prodigy was how amazing. Shen Xinyu speechlessly gave Zheng Yensong a side eye. Anyone could hear this was deliberately targeting the new student. That's his total score, not his single subject score. Maybe his math is good. Or his Chinese is good. Aren't you lopsided in your subjects too? Alright, first high is first high. Second high is second high. Our second high isn't any worse than other schools to begin with. So don't be overly modest either. Mentioning this, I just remembered. There happens to be an English-speaking competition next week, with 3 slots per class. Those who want to go can come sign up with me. This competition is a district-wide unified exam, and you need to exceed high school vocabulary levels to sign up. It tests students' extracurricular accumulation. If you place in the exam, not only will you get a certificate, but a cash prize too. If you perform well, you can even bring honor to our second high. Hearing this, I suddenly got energized, and immediately raised my hand and shouted, Teacher, I want to sign up. Zheng Yensong scoffed. There are only 3 slots for the whole class. If you can't even beat your own class, how are you going to compete with the whole district? Teacher, if you give the slot to him, then it won't be fair to the other classmates. At this, I smiled. How come I feel like you're targeting me, classmate? I'm not targeting you. I'm just saying there are only 3 slots. So we definitely need to screen through applicants. Besides, the teacher just said it yourself. It's about bringing honor to second high. So we definitely have to pick outstanding people. English teacher Liang Yuting said, how about this? Let's first see how many people sign up. If it happens to be 3, then there's no need to compete. If too many people sign up, we'll do a screening. Let's leave it at that for now. Right as Liang Yuting was about to leave, she specifically walked over to my side and asked, let me see your test paper. Probably because I was a transfer student, Liang Yuting wasn't entirely sure of my English proficiency either, and wanted to see how well I actually did, so she'd know how to help me improve my scores later on. I paused for a moment and replied, right here, teacher. Remember to pick me for the speaking competition? I'm really strong at it. Head teacher Liang Yuting smiled and said, let's see. However, the next second, Liang Yuting flipped through the test paper and froze. The entire test paper was actually all correct. Only a single multiple choice question was wrong. Didn't you say you got a lot wrong? How come I see you only missed a single one on your paper? As soon as those words came out, the classmates in the room instantly widened their eyes, turning their gazes toward me all at once. While I sighed with a look of utter sincerity, teacher, missing a single question is already unacceptable to me. Not getting a 100% is failure. Swish. The classmates in the room instantly exploded into an uproar. English class representative Shen Xinyu covered her mouth in excitement. So badass as expected of a first high top student, Zheng Yensong twitched the corner of his mouth slightly, glanced at his own test paper, and gritted his teeth as he muttered, such a show-off. English teacher. Liang Yuting smiled wryly at me and said, this kid really... Why didn't you raise your hand when you got it right? You did a great job. Keep up the hard work. After seeing my test paper, her heart finally settled down. Originally, the disciplinary office, over there, had said I was a top-tier student with stellar academic scores. And just moments ago, she had genuinely mistaken me for being slightly weak in English and stronger in other subjects. Now it seems, at least my English proficiency is still quite outstanding. Just as I put away my English test paper, I heard a female classmate complaining behind me. Why did it pause updates? Shen Xinyu That web novel on First High's forum you recommended last time, paused updates, two female classmates, instantly gathered around Shen Xinyu and started discussing it. Even Wen Mengqi took out her phone and clicked on the forum to take a look. Sure enough, seeing the hiatus notice, I asked with some curiosity, "You read it too?" Wen Mengqi bit her lip and nodded cautiously. "How is it?" "Is it good?" Wen Mengqi nodded again. "Good." I instantly smiled with satisfaction. Actually, I think it's just so-so. However, as soon as those words came out, they were overheard by Zhang Shiki sitting in front. Zhang Shiki turned around, looked at this transfer student top scholar from First High, and then asked curiously, "Weren't you from First High? Do you know who wrote this novel?" I asked back in surprise. "You know about it too. What are you guys all reading it?" Wen Mengqi replied softly, "Teacher Luo recommended it." Teacher Luo," Zhang Shiki explained. "That's our Chinese teacher. It seemed like the day before yesterday or 3 days ago. The teacher mentioned it in passing during our class, saying there's a novel on First High's forum that's written pretty interestingly. We got a bit curious and went to check it out. And it's actually so interesting. You guys at First High really have exceptional talent. To think someone even knows how to write this kind of novel." Only then did a light dawn on me. No wonder I was wondering how my novel got so many people reading it. Turns out a teacher gave it a promotional push. The corners of my mouth curled up slightly. It seems I'll have to ask for the teacher's opinion during Chinese class later. If there are no issues, I'll just submit it online and become a contracted author. Right at that moment, Shen Xinyu suddenly shouted out loud, "New student! Lin Yifei, do you know? The person who writes novels on your First High forum?" Suddenly, everyone's gaze fell upon me, evidently all very curious. After all being a top 10 in the grade scholar from First High, maybe I really did know him. I smiled faintly. I know him. As soon as those words fell, many classmates grew excited. I feel like if this was made into a TV show, it would definitely blow up. I've never read this type of novel before. I feel like the author is so talented. I deliberately played coy, then smiled and said, "Actually, it's not that exaggerated. I'll help you guys ask him later, when he'll resume updates." Facing this large group of book fans, this was truly the first time. I felt the charm of writing novels. I even deliberately glanced over at my dorky and cute sugar mommy seatmate and found that Wen Mengqi was also looking at me like a curious baby. I'll ask clearly and let you guys know later. Everyone could only sigh and walk away, though this could still be considered good news. At that moment, the class bell rang, signaling this was an official Chinese class. Soon after, Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan walked into the classroom. "What? Where is the new student?" "Right here." I immediately raised my hand. Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan nodded and said, "First High score rankings? I've looked at them a few times. I have an impression that Chinese is your weak spot, right?" "That's right, teacher. Actually, my Chinese scores really were the worst, mainly because classical Chinese was hard for me, and I wasn't too skilled at reading comprehension either. Out of so many subjects during the college entrance exam, only my Chinese performance was normal. Yet it was still merely 114 points. Later on, the teacher was lecturing during class. While I turned my head and teased my seatmate with a smile, "Classmate, your handwriting is so pretty, neat, elegant, and full of character, just like a woman's. You must look really pretty if you take off your glasses, right?" When Menki bit her lip timidly, having zero experience with guys pursuing her. This was actually her very first time, having no idea how to handle it at all, and could only keep her head down, pretending not to hear. Watching Wen Mengqi, who gave no response and was studying diligently, I also didn't have the nerve to keep disturbing her studies. So I pulled out my phone instead and started writing my novel. Finally, the class dismissal bell rang, and Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan walked down. Glancing down at me as I was playing on my phone, his expression instantly darkened. "You've been playing this whole time, playing for the entire class period." Suddenly, the surrounding classmates all put on expressions like they were watching a show. Actually, the people sitting next to him had all seen that this top student who transferred from First High had been playing on his phone the entire class. And sure enough, he finally got caught by the teacher. I nodded and replied, "I don't really like attending Chinese class." Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan pulled a long face and said, "Come outside." The classmates in the room instantly exploded, chattering away and saying all sorts of things. Out in the hallway on the other side, Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan said with a stern face, "Why were you playing on your phone? You know yourself that your Chinese grade is your weak spot. Don't you want to make up for it?" I curled the corners of my mouth and smiled. "Teacher, actually my Chinese isn't a weak spot. I did it on purpose. I just wanted to apply and ask if you could let me write things during class from now on." Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan frowned. "Write things? What do you mean?" I handed my phone over. The teacher took the phone and glanced at it, then instantly froze. "Isn't this wait? This is the subsequent plot, teacher. That novel on First High's forum is actually written by me, and I was just writing the update earlier." Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan was shocked to the core. You wrote it, he took a closer look, and indeed, the other person's account was the publisher of that novel. It really is you who wrote it. Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan drew in a sharp breath. He really hadn't expected this. His expression instantly shifted from a stern, critical look into an appreciative and admiring smile. After all, he genuinely loved reading this novel too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have introduced it to the students in class. Luo Wengshuan said, "This still won't do though. Even though you wrote the novel, and it's indeed written very well, you still have to attend class. And college entrance exam scores are also very important." At this moment, I explained, "Actually, my Chinese is super strong. I guarantee above 140 on the college entrance exam. Teacher, trust me. I wouldn't joke with my own future." Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan frowned. "No way. This still won't do. Unless on Friday's four-school joint mock exam, you can take first place in the whole school. Then I might consider it. Total score, first place, or Chinese first place? Of course, Chinese first place. Didn't you say you were confident in getting a 140 on the Gaokao? Never mind 140, if you even get 135, that's already about enough." Hearing these words, I agreed almost without any hesitation. "Then let's make it a deal. If in the four-school joint mock exam, I get first place in the whole school for Chinese, then you let me write my novel during class." Luo Wengshuan asked tentatively, "You're confident?" I grinned, confident. Obviously, the four-school joint mock exam was actually a joint exam between First High, Second High Experimental High School, and Huaxi 4 high schools in total. The test questions were all identical. Because look, the university acceptance rates of these 4 high schools were the highest, among which First High and Huaxi were the top-tier standouts. Second High ranked slightly lower, and Experimental High School ranked at the very bottom. Although it was said that the exam scores of a joint mock exam didn't represent the Gaokao, the exam rankings still held great reference value, judging by the joint exam rankings of the past few years. That batch of top-tier scores in joint exams were all seed candidates for key undergraduate universities in the Gaokao. Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan finally asked curiously again, "This novel is actually written quite nicely. You could consider signing up for that new concept essay competition." A light flashed in my eyes. "Is that the national essay competition hosted by manhwa literature?" "Right." Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan nodded. "That's the one. Do you want to give it a try?" 1101. I heard that a few students at First High have signed up too, and they said they're getting individual tutoring. Last week, when our school held a meeting, the leadership mentioned it in passing. Originally, we weren't planning to participate because the national competition is way too hard, and our school doesn't really have a chance at placing. However, I think you can give it a try. I curled the corners of my mouth slightly and asked, "Does this thing help our school compete for the provincial key demonstration school status?" Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan was somewhat surprised, not expecting this kid to even understand such things. "Yes, it helps. If you actually produce results, Second High's fame will definitely blow up and go viral. Sign up." Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan said, "You kid are something else, so then I'll wait for your joint exam results to come back. By the way, when is your novel updating?" Tomorrow should be able to update a chapter." After I returned to the classroom, I was instantly surrounded by a few gossiping classmates. How was it? What did teacher Luo say to you?" Right at that moment, before I could even sit down, teacher Luo Wengshuan suddenly returned to the classroom. "There's one more thing I didn't mention earlier. This Friday's four-school joint mock exam has a brand new rule. When taking the exam, you won't take it in your own classroom. You'll be randomized and sent to other classrooms." Lin Yifei, no problem, right? As those words fell, quite a few people cast puzzled looks my way, not knowing what this question meant. I nodded and smiled. "No problem, teacher." Right as the teacher walked out, Zhang Shiki, who sat in front, turned her head around and asked, "What does that mean? Why did the teacher ask if you had any problems?" I shrugged and smiled. "Nothing really. I told the teacher not to worry about me during class. And the teacher told me that for the four-school joint exam, if I get first place in the whole school for Chinese, he'll agree to it." As soon as those words came out, Zhang Shiki's eyes widened in instant disbelief. Gosh, first place in the whole school. For real. Even Wen Menqi was dumbfounded, staring wide-eyed and blankly at her seatmate. Just a moment ago, he was still asking her to teach him Chinese. And in the blink of an eye, he's going to test for first place in Chinese. I joked with a smile, "Keep a low profile, keep a low profile." Even though I say that I might not actually get it, I suddenly realized my stomach was rumbling. Didn't class end? "Why aren't you guys going down to get food yet?" Zhang Shiki said. I was waiting for him. "He said you didn't have a meal card, so he wanted to wait for you to come back and go together." I deliberately teased classmate Wen. "You're so good to me." Wen Mengqi's ears turned completely red instantly. She didn't speak, just lowered her head and pulled out her lunchbox from the desk drawer. The afternoon classes were filled with endless test papers. Suddenly, the phone gave a ding. Sunfei sent over a message. You went to class 4 of second high. I paused for a second, not expecting Sunfei to actually find out. Your photo at second high got posted on the campus network, and the forum is asking why you transferred schools. Chensiru's classmates are in that class too. I know Shenchen Yu told me. Oh, right. That novel you wrote on the forum seems to have blown up. I thought I read it wrong at first. It blew up after serializing just 4 chapters. And today everyone in class is talking about how you're not updating. How do they know it's me? They don't know. They're just saying, why isn't this author updating yet? Though Chensiru probably knows it's you, right? And earlier the head teacher even came over to ask if anyone knew who wrote that novel on First High's forum. He said a provincial leader came today for an open class and accidentally saw that novel, then kept praising the principal endlessly, saying they want to archive it in the school library as a commemoration. Should we tell the teacher it was written by you, although it hadn't been explicitly exposed who wrote the forum novel? Chensiru had taken the initiative to go to the teacher's office and tell head teacher Song Wenbo that she knew who wrote it. Head teacher Song Wenbo had said, "You came just at the right time. I was just saying that the novel on our school's forum should be written by a student from our school. It should be a student from our school." 1201 draw. This time with leaders from the Education Bureau happening to visit, they took one look and fell in love with this novel. Right now, the principal's idea is to take the opportunity to set up a literature club at the school and then have this classmate share his writing insights. Right, was it written by a student from our class? Chensiru hesitated for a moment and nodded. Shortly after, Song Wenbo asked Chensiru who wrote it. Chensiru fell silent for a moment. Actually, she had also been hesitating all along, whether or not she should tell them. After all, I had already dropped out. Suddenly, Vice Principal Guo Haibo called over the phone to inquire who wrote the novel. Song Wenbo replied without missing a beat, "Yes, yes, yes. It was written by a student in our class." After hanging up the phone, he only then remembered that Chensiru hadn't told him who wrote it yet. So he directly asked, "By the way, you haven't told me who wrote it yet." Head teacher Song Wenbo looked at Chensiru with eyes full of anticipation. Chensiru stammered, saying somewhat awkwardly and softly, "Teacher, how about we forget about it?" Song Wenbo said, "Forget what? Could it be that you wrote it?" Chensiru instantly grew nervous and shook her head. "No, it wasn't written by me." "Then spit it out. Why are you still too scared to say it?" Head teacher Song Wenbo said the school won't pursue any punishments and will even give out encouragement, finally driven by utter helplessness. Chensiru softly uttered a single name, Lin Yifei. Hearing this, head teacher Song Wenbo was completely dumbfounded. "Oh, what? You're saying the novel on the forum was written by Lin Yifei?" Chensiru lowered her head and replied, "It should be, because I checked the poster's account, and it's his account." Head teacher Song Wenbo was hit with total shock, his brain buzzing away. How could that be? His Chinese grades have always been nothing special, and his essays were always mediocre too. How could it be him? Chensiru said with a troubled conscience, "I don't know either, but that account really belongs to Lin Yifei. I just confirmed it a moment ago by looking up past chat records." Head teacher Song Wenbo immediately rubbed his head, feeling like he had just stepped in dog shit. "No, why didn't you say so earlier? Before Principal Guo called me just now. Why didn't you say it was written by Lin Yifei?" Now after all this, the person isn't even here anymore. And I already promised Principal Guo that sure, absolutely. Good thing the Education Bureau leaders didn't say they wanted to meet the person. What am I supposed to do if they go looking for him now? Chensiru lowered her head with a wronged expression and said, "I'm sorry, teacher. I didn't know either. I was just a little too scared to say it." After all, he already dropped out. Head teacher Song Wenbo was so infuriated he started cursing. The most crucial part was that because of this, he had already gone straight into the teacher's chat group and claimed it was written by a student in his own class. Wasn't this just slapping himself right in the face? A student who had dropped out, and furthermore, a student who had gotten into a fight with him, turned out to be the exact person they needed to find for praise and encouragement. Head teacher Song Wenbo gritted his teeth. Anyway, he stopped updating, and isn't writing anymore anyway. Just act like you don't know who wrote it, and I'll find an excuse to explain it to the school leadership. Remember, make sure you don't tell anyone else that Lin Yifei wrote it. Just say you don't know. Chensiru seemed like she still wanted to say something, but held it in anyway. Head teacher Song Wenbo angrily massaged his temples, then adjusted his emotions, and finally took out his phone to dial Vice Principal Guo Haibo's number. "Principal Guo, I'm truly sorry about this. Just now, I communicated with that student, and this novel was actually copied by him from somewhere outside. There was only that tiny bit of content, and there's nothing else after that. So, he was too embarrassed to come out and admit he wrote it." After hanging up the phone, Head teacher Song Wenbo let out a massive sigh of relief. 13011, for fear that other classmates might find out this was written by me, he had to go to the class and drop a word, signaling everyone to stop discussing this matter. Shortly after, Song Wenbo quickly arrived at the entrance of the classroom, finding the English teacher inside just about to start class. Head teacher Song Wenbo smiled faintly and said, let me say 2 words. That novel on First High's forum, just drop it. The principal said since it stopped updating, we'll leave it be. Everyone shouldn't care who wrote it either. Even if you know, don't say it out loud. Stop arguing about this matter from now on, and properly focus your minds on your studies. The 4-school joint exam is coming up soon, so all of you strive to score good results. However, right as he was about to turn and leave, a classmate suddenly shouted, "Teacher, that's not right." This novel updated again, just 5 minutes ago. Head teacher Song Wenbo suddenly suffered a jolt in his heart, freezing as if struck by a bolt from the blue. Updated for real. Instantly, the people in the classroom all pulled out their phones and began checking the forum content. Sure enough, that novel on First High's forum, The Student Who Dropped Out, had actually updated a fresh chapter of content. After being on hiatus for several days, head teacher Song Wenbo was completely dumbfounded. His inner heart already churned into monstrous waves. He subconsciously roared, "Class is in session. Who told you guys to look at your phones? Hand over all your phones after class?" The classmates in the room were all dumbfounded, scared out of their wits. It wasn't until head teacher Song Wenbo left that everyone let out a cold sweat and started chattering away. Why did teacher Song suddenly blow up like that? At this moment, Sun Fei seemed to have guessed something, the corners of her mouth curling up slightly as she secretly glanced at Chen Siru. Sure enough, the other girl's expression was also wrong. She immediately sent me a sneaky message to tell me what had just happened. Meanwhile, back in the office, Song Wenbo couldn't help massaging his head. What on earth am I supposed to do now? I literally just said the novel couldn't be written anymore. And then this bastard goes and updates it? If I honestly confess about the novel writing business belonging to that student who already dropped out, it would be the same as admitting I lied just now. If I don't confess, what happens if the school leadership wants to find this student? Right at that moment, head teacher Song Wenbo had a flash of inspiration and immediately dialed the head of discipline Liu Cheng's phone number, then told the other person about how the forum novel was actually written by me. Liu Cheng couldn't help retorting, "You could have just said he dropped out and been done with it. Why did you have to go and say he copied it from somewhere else? How do you explain it continuing to update now? This isn't something I can manage anymore. Figure it out yourself." Head teacher Song Wenbo also gritted his teeth and said, "How do I figure it out? Should I just say your son got into a fight with someone, then colluded on alibis with a female classmate, and forced Lin Yifei to drop out, huh?" Down the phone line, silence instantly fell. Liu Qiang said with a somewhat icy tone, "Then what do you want?" Head teacher Song Wenbo frowned and said, "We'll directly contact the school's forum administrator, claim we're worried it'll affect studies, and directly delete Lin Yifei's account, or ban him." Meanwhile, over at Second High, some people also discovered the novel had resumed updates, prompting quite a few to pull out their phones and log in to check. Right at that moment, physics class representative Wei Yingjie ran right over, stood next to me, and asked, "By the way, don't you know that author? Can you ask him to update at a fixed time? He writes so well." Right at that moment, Wen Mengqi suddenly let out an "ah" and blurted, "Why was this post deleted?" Instantly, everyone was completely baffled. It was just looking totally fine a moment ago, yet in a flash, it got deleted. I frowned, feeling something wasn't right, and glanced at the posts inside my own account, finding they really had been wiped out. I blurted out in a mocking tone, "Badass, truly badass. They're really trying to exterminate every last root." Zhang Shiki asked strangely, "What do you mean?" I just got ready to say something when 1401 and discovered the math teacher had already arrived at the classroom door. Shortly after, I took the opportunity to send Sun Fei a message, unexpectedly finding she had already messaged me first. "Your post got deleted. Feels like the head teacher did it. Just now, the head teacher told us not to discuss this matter." At this moment, the math teacher cleared his throat on the stage and said, "Friday's 4-school joint mock exam. Everyone should know about it by now. This time, we're swapping classrooms for the exam, so everyone needs to take it seriously. Next, I'm going to hand out 2 test papers to you guys, which are the math papers from the 4-school joint exam 2 years ago. I excerpted one part of it, and the other part consists of questions I wrote myself. Class representative, come up and hand the papers down." However, right at that moment, suddenly, Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan arrived at the classroom door, knocked on it, and said, "Lin Yifei, come outside for a moment." Everyone curiously cast glances at me sitting in the back. After stepping out into the hallway, the Chinese teacher softly asked, "How come your novel got deleted?" I shrugged and smiled. "No idea. Didn't anyone notify you? I just heard a teacher from First High saying that Education Bureau leaders even praised your novel. How did it suddenly get deleted? A light instantly flashed in my eyes. I get it, teacher, because I dropped out so they deleted it. Otherwise, letting it keep fermenting wouldn't look good, and Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan realized with a start seems like it. Then why don't you just update it on Second High's forum? Anyway, you're at Second High now, so I'm sure nobody will delete your post. Looking back, if you win a prize in the new concept essay competition, who knows, your novel might even get published as a book. Shortly after, I returned to the classroom for class. Not long after the math teacher spoke up, take a 5-minute break. We'll continue shortly. Yeah, just as I got up to go take a pee, suddenly Shen Xinyu came running over, saying with a cheeky smile, "I know a secret." Then she leaned in right next to my ear and whispered softly, "That novel was written by you, right?" My eyebrows twitched slightly upward. As I asked, "Did Chen Siru tell you?" Shen Xinyu said triumphantly with a smile, "I won't tell you." I also whispered softly right by this female classmate's ear, "I'll tell you a secret too. I'm planning to re-update on Second High's forum." As those words fell, she smilingly began to clap her hands. Right at that moment, I suddenly discovered the pens and notebooks on my desk. The notebook I had borrowed from Wen Mengqi earlier were all gone. I looked at Wen Mengqi in surprise and asked, "My pencil case. Did you take your notebook back?" Seeing Wen Mengqi didn't speak, I reached out to take it myself, only to be blocked by Wen Mengqi. "No, go find it yourself." Shen Qinyu let out a snort of laughter seeing me, cast a glance at the tight-faced little rich girl seatmate Wen Mengqi and asked, "Are you jealous?" Wen Mengqi let out a huff and said, "Aren't you guys super close? Why'd you have to borrow from me?" I have to admit, little rich girl Wen Mengqi's jealous look was actually kind of cute. Looking at my still angry seatmate and little rich girl, I thought about it for a moment before directly unlocking my phone and letting her look at my forum account. After throwing a stubborn glance at it, she instantly covered her little mouth in shock. Suddenly, I went shh, smilingly blocked her mouth with my hand, and then whispered softly, "Now you know." Then I went ahead and told her how Shen Yuo found out that the forum novel was written by me, along with the reason why I got into a fight with the head of discipline's son. Back at First High, I told her all of it. During Wednesday's PE class, the teacher made everyone run 500 meters. Watching Wen Mengqi's running form, I finally understood why no guys pursued her, and why she didn't even have any close classmates. It was probably because she got mocked by classmates too much, which resulted in her introverted personality. Yet at this moment, I suddenly got the feeling of having discovered a treasure trove of a girl. The most important thing was that this adorable little rich girl still had nobody who knew how to cherish her. Well, from now on, let me be the one to cherish you. Right after that, I directly followed right alongside Wen Mengqi out on the track. Then right after following Wen Mengqi out onto the playground, running right alongside her, Wen Mengqi indeed revealed an insecure expression, keeping her head down, not speaking, and just running continuously. At this moment, I asked from the side, "What do you want to drink? I'll go buy you some." Also, actually, you really don't need to care about those rumors at all. Only then did Wen Mengqi cautiously raise her head, though you could tell she was still a bit insecure and timid. As she ran, she shyly and softly said, You won't laugh at me." In the blink of an eye, everyone else had also finished running. Myself, along with Wen Mengqi and Zhang, Shiki rested in place. Shortly after, I slowly smiled and asked, "Are you guys playing badminton later?" The two shook their heads, softly saying, "We'll just sit here for a bit, we'll be fine." Yet right as the three of them rested, everyone who saw my behavior was completely stunned. Clearly, Wen Mengqi and Zhang Shiki both belonged to the type of girls tagged with bad labels. Their looks weren't bad. They just lacked traditional girly charm. At this moment, Shen Qinyue suddenly smiled and said, "How about we call them over to play together?" Shortly after, she invited Wen Mengqi and Zhang Shiki over to play shuttlecock together. I took advantage of this exact time to post the previous novel onto Second High's forum, and by the way, update one more new chapter of content. Writing and writing, suddenly I raised my head to look, discovering that Wen Mengqi and Jiang Shiki both had dark expressions as they turned around and walked toward the bleachers. Wen Mengqi even walked while wiping away her tears, so I quickly chased after them, getting ready to ask what was going on, only to find Wen Mengqi blushing and looking at me with total grievance, before running straight toward the teaching building without saying a word. Zhang Shiki also gritted her teeth in a dilemma and chased after her. Finally, she turned back and yelled at me, "It's all because of you." As those words fell, I chased after them with a totally clueless expression, grabbed Zhang Shiki and asked, "Make it clear. Why is she crying?" Zhang Shiki let out a sigh, then glanced back one last time at the group of girls, playing shuttlecock in the distance. "You buying us water earlier got seen by them. They were just chatting about this matter earlier, and I only said a single sentence that it wasn't bought for me, but bought for Wen Mengqi. As a result, they instantly started gossiping and making a fuss, saying things like how you're actually chasing Wen Mengqi, and then saying your taste is so bad and your preference is so weird, claiming it's completely a fresh flower stuck in cow dung. The corners of my mouth twitched slightly, and I asked in utter disbelief, who said that? Who said a fresh flower stuck in cow dung? Saying I'm cow dung. Zhang Shiki bit her lip and softly said, they said you're the fresh flower. I couldn't help laughing and scolding, who said it, tell me? Xu Jiying said it. Chen Xinyue said she didn't expect Lin Yifei's taste to be so bad. And then, Zhu Jiang said a fresh flower stuck in cow dung? Alright, you go on up first. I'm going to find Zhu Jiang and make her apologize. Shortly after, I walked straight toward the female classmates playing shuttlecock. Seeing me walk over, Shen Xinyi and a few of the female classmates seemed to have guessed something was up. Then Shen Xinyue awkwardly smiled and said, sorry. How come it seemed like we made Wen Mengqi cry just now? I took a deep breath, opened my mouth with a serious expression and said, apologize. Though I guess you guys definitely won't be able to say it out loud, so you and Zhu Jing write an apology note for her. As those words fell, Shen Xinyu paused in a daze. I have to write one too. Shen Xinyu retorted with a bit of jealousy. No way. Why should I? I stared with wide eyes and angrily barked. I said apologize? Do you really want me to start cursing people out, huh? Shen Xinyue was startled, completely frozen in place. Even those few girls kicking shuttlecocks in the distance were dumbfounded. None of them expected me to suddenly throw such a massive temper. Shen Xinyu's eye rims turned red and she burst into tears, squatting straight down on the ground, crying while wiping her tears. However, the boys who saw this scene also started getting restless. Seeing this situation, Zheng Yansong immediately rushed over. What's wrong with you? Crying, did he bully you? Cried, are you crying? Did he bully you? 1601, Shen Xinyue shook her head while crying, stood up and said, what business is it of yours? Finally, she glared at me and turned away. Zheng Yansong's mouth twitched slightly, and pointing at me, he yelled, don't run after school. That afternoon, the atmosphere in the classroom became extremely bizarre. Everyone was whispering, especially during the final self-study period right before dismissal. At this moment, Jiang Shiki passed a note to Wen Mengqi. I heard Lin Yifei made Shen Xinyu cry, and Zheng Yansong said he's going to find people to beat him up after school. Seeing these lines of words, Wen Mengqi bit her lip nervously, then glanced over at me and softly said, take a look at this. With her eyes full of worry, Wen Mengqi bit her lip and softly said, I'm sorry. How about we tell the teacher? I frowned and replied, no way. If we tell the teacher, in the end, you'll definitely get dragged into it too. I don't want you getting involved. In reality, one could easily imagine once the four of us, myself, Shen Xingyue, Wen Mengqi, and Zheng Yansong were called away by the teacher, what kind of things would happen. Even if the matter seemed to be resolved on the surface, the gossip and public opinion from surrounding classmates would instead become more and more exaggerated. After all, back when he was at first high in his past life, he had already been through this once. Idle gossip is truly capable of crushing a fragile psychological defense line, let alone someone like Wen Mengqi, a girl who already possessed a tiny bit of underlying insecurity. Of course, I couldn't possibly push her out into the spotlight. Little rich girl Wen Mengqi looked at me with a mix of grievance and fear, before finally writing a few words on the paper with a pen and passing it over. I'll go apologize to him. I rolled my eyes at her, then wrote back on the paper, not allowed to go. I have a way, actually, when dealing with these so-called off-campus street brawls and fights, the simplest and most direct method is to let them know you're way more savage than they are, forcing them to back off in the face of difficulties. Then the corners of my mouth curved upward in a side smirk, and I passed the note over. Do you have money? Lend me some money, I'll scrape together some funds to hire people. Yet nobody expected that 2 minutes later I would receive a transfer from her. I stared in utter astonishment at the numbers displayed. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. There were actually 286,751 yuan in total. I was completely dumbfounded. So this is what a legendary little rich girl looks like. A high school senior actually has this much money. Is it enough? If it's not enough, I can ask my mom for a bit more. It's enough. I couldn't help covering my head and laughing out loud. This is seriously too OP. Shortly after, I directly looked through my friends list for a group of people, only to find it would be better to just contact Sun Fei directly. Some people want to beat me up after school. Talk to your cousin? Call me up some people. Have them come to Second High School Gate after school today. 300 per person. An extra 500 if things get physical. Sun Fei was instantly bewildered. What kind of situation is this? Bro, is Second High really that hardcore? Then I directly transferred 30,000 yuan over. Holy shit. 30,000 yuan, are you seriously trying to call 100 people? After confirming with Sun Fei, the corners of my mouth curved up slightly, and I subconsciously raised my head to glance at Zheng Yan. Song in the distance. The guy seemed to be staring at me too. Then the after-school bell rang. At this moment, quite a few people subconsciously turned their heads to take a look at me sitting in the back. Even English class representative Shin Yue couldn't help walking over, and with a complex state of mind pulled me to the back of the classroom, softly saying, "How about you don't go out for now? Jung Yensong called up some people and is waiting for you outside the school." Shin Yu shook her head full of worry. "I'm sorry," I told him, but he insisted on finding trouble for you. "How about you, if you really have no choice, just apologize to him." Before this, someone already got beaten up once because of this. I smiled amusedly. "What are you worried about me? Are you a boarding student too? Just remember to apologize to Wen Menki during evening self-study." 1701. As those words fell, I walked out of the classroom with absolute swag. Seeing that persuasion failed, Shin Yue had no choice but to turn back and plead with Wen Menki, "I'm sorry. I didn't know it would turn out like this. How about you talk to him and tell him not to go out to the school gate for now? Otherwise, he's really going to get beaten up." Shen Yu squatted beside Wen Menqi's desk, requesting her help with a face full of fear. Wen Menqi shook her head and earnestly replied, "I trust him." Shen Yue was practically on the verge of crying from anger. "No, it's not a question of whether you trust him or not. Lin Yifei definitely can't beat those guys. Zheng Yansong called so many people over. I admit I shouldn't have said it like that back then. You guys were just a bit jealous, alright? But I really don't want to see Lin Yifei get beaten up by them. Aren't you close with him? Talk some sense into him." When Mengqi hesitated for a moment, but in the end shook her head again, and softly said, "Actually, he also called people." As those words fell, Shen Xinyue became both anxious and angry, grabbing her head. "Then what should we do?" Gritting her teeth, she prepared to go to the teacher's office to snitch, only for Wen Mengqi to pluck up the courage and say, "He said we can't tell the teacher." At this moment, little rich girl, Wen Mengqi's gaze suddenly turned very resolute. If she had run into this kind of thing in the past, she wouldn't have known how to handle it either. But right now she felt she should trust me. If she told the teacher now, then all my previous preparations would go to waste. Shen Yue anxiously explained, "Are you crazy? If this really blows up into a huge deal, chances are Lin Yifei is going to get expelled again." Little rich girl Wen Menqi took a deep breath and spoke up with calm composure, "That's why we have to trust him. And not tell the teacher." Shen Yu's mouth opened slightly, looking at Wen Menqi with some disbelief. At that very instant, it felt as if she were in a dream. Meanwhile, near the school gate, several classmates nearby were whispering among themselves, "Hey, aren't you scared walking out right now? I remember, that guy frequently hangs out with Zheng Yansong." I immediately smiled. Zheng Yansong? No idea. Looks like he went to the office to ask the teacher about homework, right? I looked somewhat surprised, creating an alibi. "Zheng Yansong." Liu Jiang chuckled heartily. "You're pretty smart, huh?" "Ha ha ha, truly living up to your title as a top student. Though seriously, just going over and lowering your head to apologize will do. You're all classmates, there's no need to be so stubborn. How about it? I can help you talk to Zheng Yansong." I kept one hand in my pocket without speaking, just walking straight toward the outside of the school gate. Soon I spotted, parked by the roadside at the school entrance, a few electric bikes and motorcycles, with 7 or 8 punk-looking guys smoking outside. Liu Xiang patted my shoulder and smiled. "I'm heading out. Bye-bye. Good luck." Sure enough, the moment Liu Xiang left, those few punk guys smoking cast their gazes over toward me. The punks exchanged a smile, and then one of them with dyed yellow hair took the initiative to walk toward me. "Hey, you come over here for a sec." The surrounding students leaving school together were all startled, hastily backing away and not daring to get close to me. While smoking a cigarette, the yellow-haired guy threw an arm around my shoulder and said, "You're that transfer student from class 4 senior year, right?" My eyebrows twitched slightly upward as I sized up this group of people, finding they were actually just good-for-nothing delinquent kids who dropped out in the past, hardly a few years older than myself, riding those beat-up electric bikes and knock-off motorcycles to block people at the school gate. At this moment, I couldn't help laughing out loud. Pouting my lips, I said, "Oh, you guys were called over by Zheng Yansong." The yellow-haired punk shook his head with a smile. Come. We've got some things to discuss with you." To be honest, if an ordinary high schooler ran into this kind of situation, they genuinely would be terrified, especially with these guys having dyed hair tattoos and smoking, while 2 of them even held water pipes and iron rods. It's definitely scary enough, but for someone like me who transmigrated back, 1801, no, it just looked kind of comical. So I chuckled, "Is this really only a few of you guys? I thought you called a whole army." The yellow-haired punk sneered mockingly, "Kid, you think we have too few people?" The surrounding punks chimed in with hot-headed taunts. "No. Who the hell do you think you are? Stop acting all badass. Are the few of us not enough? The moment those words dropped, Soonfei's cousin muttered while walking over from the bus station. Is it over that way? Let's go, go, go. At this moment, a massive wave of street youths waiting for transport at the station swarmed forward in an imposing procession to surround the direction of myself and the few punks, scaring the surrounding students and even parents who came to pick up their kids so badly that they stood frozen, hastily pulling their children behind them. Even the security guard at the school gate was completely dumbfounded, tremblingly pulling out his cell phone to place a call to the school leadership. Suddenly, the few punks who had been called over by Jung Yen-song had their brains short-circuit. Boss Liu, isn't it just for these few punk kids? Was it really necessary to call so many of us over? We thought it was some massive beef. Turns out, it's just a few truants, blocking people at the school gate. Boss Liu had seen my photo beforehand and immediately smiled. Yifei, right? Just these few. Earlier, I had also looked at Sunfei's cousin's photo, so I responded right away. Didn't expect it to just be these few either. I thought there were at least 10 or 20 people saying they wanted to beat me up. That guy deliberately went to find a teacher with homework questions. So he's not here. You guys just handle it however you see fit. Anyway, both sides are outsiders. If anyone asks, just say it was a turf dispute. Boss Liu said with a grin, alright. You head home first. Immediately, they surrounded these punks and punk kids. Who the hell told you guys to come here? Move, 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 don't block the school entrance. Let's head over there to chat. Shortly after, dozens of people grabbed these few punks and dragged them off to the side to teach them a lesson. At this moment, Second High's head of discipline, Liu Xiaoping, rushed hurriedly to the school gate, only to find nobody outside anymore. What the hell is going on? Didn't someone say people were fighting at the school gate just a moment ago? The school security guard swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Right. It seemed like a student got dragged over. Then, just as I wanted to check what was going on, suddenly another huge crowd rushed out and dragged those few non-studying punk kids away. Looked like they went toward the left side. Head of discipline Liu Xiaoping drew in a sharp breath of cold air and asked, did any of our school's students get beaten up? The security guard shook his head. Probably not. Later, that student seemed to have walked away. Hearing these words, head of discipline Liu Xiaoping finally let out a sigh of relief. He immediately sent a message in the school's homeroom teachers chat group, a Second High all homeroom teachers group. There were outsiders loitering and fighting at the school gate. Check if anyone in your class knows anything about this and see if anyone got beaten up. If so, notify me immediately. Immediately, all the homeroom teachers across Second High started privately messaging students in their chat groups one after another to inquire about the situation. That same night during evening self-study time, Class 4 of senior year completely exploded. Someone hiding at the school gate had taken photos of me being dragged away by the yellow-haired guy, and then a huge bunch of people rushing out behind him, who ultimately scared those punks so badly they practically pissed their pants. That is seriously too OP. At the time, I thought Lin Yifei was totally finished. Yet who could have guessed he was actually the real boss, calling dozens of people over, and they were all adults too. All the classmates were excitedly discussing this matter, instantly developing massive respect for me. Previously, everyone knew Jung Yen-song was badass, because back in his second year, he had called people to the school gate to fight with people from other classes. Who could have imagined that the top student who transferred over from First High was even more savage? Shen Xinyue let out a sigh, wrote a note, and tossed it over to Jung Yen-song. After reading it, Jung Yen-song was so pissed he literally smashed his books. That same night during self-study class, Jung Yen-song was called into the teacher's office to stand in the corner and write a self-criticism. Meanwhile, among the students in the study room, someone suddenly yelled, "Hey guys, look! That novel by the guy who dropped out of First High just got posted here to Second High's forum. Huh, this ID looks so familiar." He said he transferred from First High to Second High, so from now on, he'll be updating on the Second High forum. In an instant, a whole bunch of girls got super excited. Zhang Shiki widened her eyes in disbelief, turned back to glance at Wen Menqi sitting in the back, and softly asked, "The author of that novel said they transferred to Second High from First High?" Then she subconsciously glanced over at Wen Menqi's empty seat beside her, originally expecting the other girl to be extremely shocked. She never imagined Wen Menqi would just nod her head instead. Zhang Shiki blurted out in pure shock, "It's really Lin Yifei." As those words fell, everyone in the classroom subconsciously turned their gazes over, instantly boiling over with excitement. It was written by Lin Yifei. Oh god, didn't they say it was written by his classmate? Wait a minute. Isn't he the only one who transferred over from First High? Shen Xinyu chuckled. Then it definitely has to be him. Shen Xinyue and Wen Menqi exchanged gazes, seemingly confirming some things. Yet at this moment, Zhu Jiaying suddenly ran over to Shen Xinyu's side and softly said, "What should we do? Should we go apologize?" Even Zheng Yinsong got completely leveled. "Will Lin Yifei find people to beat us up?" Shen Xinyue sighed and replied, "No, he won't. Though you should still apologize anyway. Write a few hundred words of an apology letter." Zhu Jiaying immediately nodded her head, hastily pulling out a homework notebook, tearing off a sheet of paper and starting to write the apology letter. After the first class of evening self-study ended, Zhu Jiaying nervously came up to Wen Mengqi, fidgeting and stammering, "Sorry, I shouldn't have talked trash about you today." After finishing, she handed the apology letter over. Shen Xinyue also said with a serious expression, "Me too. I'm sorry, but I've already made up my mind." Hearing these words, Zhu Jiaying froze in place, and Wen Mengqi also raised her head in a daze to look at the other girl. Shen Xinyu smiled with plucked-up courage. "Let's compete fairly, and see who can win over Lin Yifei." Zhang Shiqi's jaw dropped open, staring at these two girls like a wooden chicken. Wen Mengqi was also completely dumbfounded. She had genuinely never thought that a guy like me would ever like someone like her, suddenly getting that dizzy floating feeling like riding on a spaceship. The next day when I returned to school, just walking down the campus path, I had already become a legendary figure. Students along the way were whispering among themselves and glancing at me from time to time. Yet absolutely no one dared to proactively come up and greet me. When I arrived at the school cafeteria, I happened to run into classmate Liu Ziang. Liu Jiang awkwardly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. "Fei Jie, I'm really sorry about that. I actually wasn't that close with Zheng Yansong either. Seriously, I tried to talk him out of it yesterday, but he wouldn't listen." Liu Ziang had already heard the rumors that the people Zheng Yansong tracked down yesterday not only failed to teach me a lesson, but instead got taught a lesson by someone else. I chuckled and replied, "You definitely weren't talking like that yesterday, huh?" After that, he kept shouting "Fei Gei" before and after me, hanging around my side, and even praising the novel I wrote as awesome from time to time. In that spaceship realm, are there any tormenting sorcerers or dark marsh monsters? I thought to myself, this guy is seriously a talent. What kind of isekai spirit entities are these even? I couldn't be bothered to entertain him. Returning to the classroom, I was instantly surrounded by the classmates in my class. Fine, I'll drop the act, all right. The novel is written by me," I said while laughing, then walked back to my own seat. As soon as I sat down, I was surprised to discover that on my desk there was actually a serving of stir-fried rice noodles placed nicely. 2001 non, along with a bottle of pure milk. I poked Zhang Shiki sitting in front of me with my finger. "Who left this here?" Zhang Shiki glanced over at the empty seat of the Nalit English class representative. "I guess she bought it for you." At this moment, Wen Mengqi also carried a bag of breakfast and a few textbooks back into the classroom. As soon as she sat down, I handed the stir-fried rice noodles and milk straight into Wen Mengqi's hands and swapped the stir-fried rice noodles she had bought back over. I chuckled. "Let's switch it up." Wen Mengqi frowned and asked, "Why?" I explained with a completely straight face, "I want to eat the mud," meaning the ones she bought smelled much better. Wen Mengqi paused for a second. Though she didn't know why the ones she bought smelled better, she just uttered an "oh" since it was all stir-fried rice noodles anyway. It didn't really matter. "And don't waste the milk. Come take a sip." Then I personally fed the milk right into Wen Mengqi's mouth. She gave me a super weird look, then suddenly had a flash of realization and blurted out, "You're trying to dodge paying me back." After a moment of pondering, she finally came to a conclusion. This deskmate of hers was trying to swallow her entire fortune whole. Otherwise, why would he be trying so hard to butter her up early in the morning? I let out a snort and chuckled, "Wen Teng Shui, am I really that kind of person?" I admit I'm no saint, but even if I scam anyone, I wouldn't scam you, right? Don't worry, I'll pay the money back. Just not right now. Wen Mengqi said aggrievedly, "That was all my New Year's money, and my monthly living expenses were in there too. How about this for the foreseeable future? I'll cover all your food, drinks, and daily expenses. Sound good? Then I'll pay you back with interest when the time comes." Wen Mengqi frowned and muttered, "For real? Just swipe my meal card from now on. And then I'll set you up with a family card on Green Bubble and drop a bit of allowance in there. Is 3,000 a month enough?" Wen Mengqi shook her head. "Too much, 600 is plenty." I rolled my eyes and said, "No way. You have to spend at least 1,000 a month. If you don't spend it all, that's a failing grade. Girls should learn how to spend money. Wen Tongshui, you're just way too thrifty." As soon as I finished speaking, I added the family card to Wen Mengqi's Green Bubble account and set a monthly limit of 10,000 yuan. Wen Mengqi blankly went, "Oh," and said, "I'll give it a try." At this moment, I was genuinely about to crack up laughing at this little rich girl. Shortly after, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting called both me and Zheng Yansong outside. The other classmates were all secretly using their speeches, peeking out into the hallway behind the classroom. At this time, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting put on a stern face. You both know why I called you out here, right? I chuckled. Teacher, I really didn't get into a fight. Yesterday was my cousin's birthday. If you don't believe me, ask Zheng Yensong. Zheng Yensong and I are tight homies. How could we possibly fight? Zheng Yensong was utterly dumbfounded, his brain completely short-circuiting. Since when were we tight homies? Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting glanced at Zheng Yensong and asked, you tell your side. Zheng Yensong's mouth opened slightly, and after holding it in for ages, he only managed to squeeze out one word, she. Liang Yuting was also pissed off to no end, and chuckled, oh, tight homies, huh? Alright, do you want me to arrange for the two of you to sit together? The moment those words dropped, the two of us practically blurted out in unison, no way, no way. Liang Yuting crossed her arms and sighed helplessly. Aren't you guys tight homies? Why are you refusing? I chuckled. I'm mostly worried it'll affect our studies. If we sit together in class, we'll definitely chat all the time. Liang Yuting took a glance at me and noticed I really didn't look like someone who had gotten beaten up. As for Zheng Yensong, needless to say, yesterday that kid supposedly hung around the math teacher's office refusing to leave, stubbornly grinding through a whole exam paper, so he definitely hadn't gotten beaten up either. Fine, I won't notify your parents about this for now, but Lin Yifei and Yu Zheng Yensong, if I ever hear about you guys getting into conflicts again, 2101 none, or even worse, calling people from outside the school over, don't bother explaining things to me when that happens. Just head straight to the disciplinary office and explain it to the director. Understand? I smiled and replied, understood, teacher. Oh, right. That English-speaking competition you mentioned last time, I want to participate. Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting took a deep breath, waved her hand at Zheng Yensong and said, go back for morning self-study first. Shortly after, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting pulled me aside alone and asked, tell me honestly, does Zheng Yensong usually target you in class? Did he force you not to tell the teacher, right? Then I laid out the whole situation at the school gate, like an assassin from the dark marsh, reporting it all back to the teacher. Hearing this, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting was instantly mind-fucked. You call that being tight homies? Before heading back to the classroom, I didn't forget to teach the teacher how to report this matter to the school leadership. Just say that yesterday, those people came to celebrate my cousin's birthday and just happened to pass by the school gate. Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting was instantly cracked up by me, and then I casually remarked, teacher, you look really pretty when you smile. Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting, how could she handle this kid's smooth talking? She gave me a light kick right away, smiling and saying, go, go, go. Get back to morning self-study. Every single day, clearly this sugar-coated barrage of mine still managed to butter the teacher up successfully, and she didn't continue pursuing the matter between the two of us. At this moment, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting stood on the podium and announced, tomorrow is the four-school joint examination. I'll be handing out the test permits this afternoon. Everyone keep them safe. Also, regarding that English-speaking competition, currently only 3 people have signed up with me, so we won't need any screening process. Ling Yifei, Shenxing Yue, Jiang Shiki. You 3 can prepare yourselves first. Right, for the New Year's cultural performance, every class needs at least 2 programs. Anyone with a performance arrangement, register with the cultural Wei Yuan. Meanwhile, over in First High's classroom, it was absolute chaos. Did you guys hear? That novel that was updating at First High a while ago is now updating on the Second High forum. I heard it was written by a transfer student. I asked someone from Second High, and they said there's seemingly only one transfer student in senior year. Could it really be written by Lin Yifei? Suddenly, the voices cut off dead, because Vice Principal Guo Haibo happened to be standing at the back door of the classroom. After hearing what everyone was discussing, he furrowed his brow and asked the novel on Second High's forum, who posted it over to Second High. Everyone in the class was instantly struck dumb. Looking at each other blankly, Vice Principal Guo Haibo put on a stern face. Class monitor. At this moment, class monitor Chen Zhijie stood up. He smiled bitterly and said, Principal, I have no idea either. I don't even know who wrote it. Vice Principal Guo Haibo retorted in surprise, you don't know? Then why did someone tell me it was written by a student in your class? As soon as these words dropped, the whole room exploded. Could it really be Lin Yifei? Class monitor Chen Zhijie rubbed his head and chuckled, Principal, that novel updated over at Second High, and it even said the author transferred over from First High. If it's from our class, then it has to be Lin Yifei? Vice Principal Guo Haibo paused for a second. Your homeroom teacher told me he tracked down that student and shut the novel down out of fear that it would affect college entrance exam scores. Everyone shook their heads one after another. Right at this moment, Sun Fei suddenly stood up and said, Principal, it was definitely written by Lin Yifei, because back then, I heard some Education Bureau leadership praising his novel, so I asked about it. But later, the homeroom teacher told us to drop it And so the matter was just left at that. Vice Principal Guo Haibo's expression instantly darkened. With a rigid face, he said, "I get it. You guys continue with your morning self-study." With that, he walked right out of the classroom. 122-01 on, as soon as the vice principal's footsteps walked away, senior year class 2's classroom instantly erupted in excited chaos. A massive crowd surrounded Sun Fei. It really was written by Lin Yifei. At this moment, homeroom teacher Song Wenbo was organizing test papers in the office, when suddenly Vice Principal Guo Haibo walked in. The teachers in the room all raised their heads one after another. Guo Haibo stood at the office doorway, speaking with an extremely terrible mood. "The homeroom teacher of class 2, get out here for a second." Shortly after, the two of them arrived at the office entrance to talk in private. "What? You're saying that novel updated on Second High's forum?" Song Wenbo instantly shivered all over, breaking out in a cold sweat. He originally thought that by getting my account banned, there would be no way to keep updating. Who could have imagined that this kid would run straight over to Second High's forum to update? Vice Principal Guo Haibo put on a rigid face and said, "Didn't you say at the beginning that you communicated with the child's parents? Did you stop the updates because it affected his academics? How come people from your class are saying it was written by that student who dropped out?" Song Wenbo smiled awkwardly. Well, I... Then Guo Haibo couldn't help cursing out, Song Wenbo, oh Song Wenbo, don't think I don't know. You did it on purpose. You didn't dare say it was written by the student who dropped out after arguing with you, right? What on earth are you afraid of? So what if that novel was written by him? Wouldn't it be fine if you just said it out straight? Now look at how difficult you've made things for me. How am I supposed to report back? I even specially told the leadership at the Education Bureau that academics take priority, so the updates were temporarily on hold. In a few days, the Education Bureau leadership is coming to Second High to observe classes. Do you not know what period this is right now? First High, Second High, Experimental High, and South China Normal are all competing for this provincial key demonstration school quota. We absolutely cannot leave the leadership with any bad impressions. Figure out a way to make this student immediately pull the novel down, or else have him come back and update on First High's forum. Song Wenbo's mouth opened slightly and his brain completely short-circuited. Vice Principal Guo Haibo said with a serious expression, "Song Wenbo, I remember you're also applying for senior teacher status this year, right? If First High becomes a laughingstock because of this matter, you should know how severe the consequences are. Hurry up and take advantage of the fact that not many people know about this yet, and handle it right away. Either have him come back to update on First High's forum, or make him stop updating altogether. Otherwise, isn't this utterly embarrassing? Might as well have just said it was written by an outsider from the start." Song Wenbo gritted his teeth and said, "Understood. This mess is my fault. Rest assured, I definitely won't let First High lose face on my watch." Vice Principal Guo Haibo nodded with satisfaction only then placed his hands behind his back and turned to leave. During the third class, shortly after, homeroom teacher Song Wenbo faced the students below and announced, "Before class today, I want to mention something. Which of you has a relatively good relationship with Lin Yifei?" The students below instantly looked at each other blankly. Finally, Sun Fei raised his hand and chuckled. "Teacher, I'm okay with him." Someone else muttered softly, "Chen Siru." Song Wenbo's eyes suddenly lit up. "Right, Chen Siru. Aren't you pretty close with Lin Yifei? Can you help me ask him? Why did that novel suddenly stop updating at First High? Can you get him to come back to First High's forum and stop writing on Second High's forum?" Chen Siru hesitantly replied, "Teacher, but he's studying at Second High now, you see. Isn't it completely normal to update at Second High? Why would he come back to First High?" Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo chuckled. "Just talk him into it. Just say all the classmates love reading it. Aren't you guys friends? Where isn't writing, just writing. Meanwhile, I was quietly studying hard in class. Suddenly received a message sent by Sun Fei. We've got a good show to watch. The principal came over to the class today to ask about your novel, and ended up having the homeroom teacher get Chensaru to find you and make you come back to First High to update your dropped novel. What? In Soin and Chukao. I replied with a scarce, "I already deleted Chensaru." No wonder I saw Chensaru acting all hesitant and evasive. Guess she was too embarrassed to say she got deleted by you. Ha ha ha, too hilarious. Sure enough. Not a moment later, I received a friend request. Chensaru requests to add you as a friend. Without even thinking, I directly rejected it, and even purposely turned back, to chuckle at the little rich girl, Wen Menki, sitting beside me. "Wen Tongzue, don't forget you're treating me to a movie this Saturday," Wen Menki explained with a wronged look. "I'm completely out of money." I burst out laughing so hard my stomach hurt. How is she so hopelessly adorable? I'll treat all right. Wen Menki suddenly shook her head and said, "No, don't I have that family card?" I promised I would treat you using my own money. When Mengqi blankly paused for a second, as if her brain couldn't quite process it. After a dozen minutes of class passed, the little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, suddenly began muttering to herself, "Hold on, that's not right. Swiping the family card doesn't count as me treating you, unless I spend money separately to buy the tickets." I slumped over my desk and cracked up with a wide grin. The little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, is genuinely way too cute. Lin Yifei, what are you laughing at? At this moment, the chemistry teacher on the podium couldn't help calling me out in public. That was when I remembered class was still in session. So I hurriedly stood up and chuckled, "Teacher, I just thought of something happy." At this moment, Wen Mengqi's face turned completely red. Knowing I was laughing at her, she instantly buried her head down. "Teacher, it's because I was working on a chemistry problem where there was a potassium plus 2N equals banana, and I was wondering if I'd just discovered some big secret." As soon as those words dropped, the whole class cracked up. Then the chemistry teacher criticized, "Pay attention to class from now on, and leave extracurricular problems for your free time." Finally, lunchtime arrived. As soon as class ended, Shen Yue ran over to my desk and asked, "Did you really reject her friend request?" I paused for a second, then immediately realized Chen Xiru went looking for you. Chen Xinyu clicked her tongue and chuckled, "You're so heartless. She said she needed to talk to you about something. Just add her back." I coldly replied, "No need." "Boss Wen Tongshu, let's go grab lunch." The little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, uttered an "oh" and then followed right behind me. Shen Yue was dumbfounded for a moment, because this was the first time she had ever been directly ignored like this. Xu Jiang walked over from the side and chuckled, "Let's go. Stop looking. Maybe some people just prefer that type." At this moment, while waiting in line at the cafeteria, I was trying to figure out what to eat, when I suddenly noticed the little rich girl, Wen Mengqi's big eyes, staring at me all watery and doe-eyed. "Oh, what's wrong? Nobody's bullying you." I looked over with a laugh that wasn't quite a smile at Jiang Shiki, standing beside us, and asked, "Why is she acting like this all of a sudden?" Jiang Shiki shook her head. Suddenly, when Mengqi asked with a soft, delicate hesitation, "That ex-girlfriend of yours back at First High, was she really pretty?" I burst out laughing and said, "Oh, are you jealous?" When Mengqi bit her lower lip without saying a word, gazing at me with a wronged expression in her eyes. After that, the three of them found a corner table, eating and chatting away. "Oh, right, are you signing up for the cultural performance?" When Mengqi also curiously glanced over at me, I remained silent for a few seconds and chuckled. "I can sign up, or I can choose not to." Suddenly, Jiang Shiki turned to me and said, "Let me tell you a secret. When Mengqi won first prize in last year's cultural performance." When those words dropped, I looked slightly surprised. When Mengqi immediately shook her head shyly, motioning for Jiang Shiki to stop talking. Jiang Shiki chuckled, "What's there to be scared of? This is your advantage." Then she spilled the secret of how Wen Mengqi was a piano specialty student. After finishing lunch, after chatting a bit more about the cultural performance, I smiled and said I'd volunteer to sign up. Meanwhile, Chensuru arrived at the teacher's office and said, "Teacher, I'm sorry, but Lin Yifei actually deleted me. Even when I added him, he wouldn't talk to me. Why don't you call him yourself and talk to him?" Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo was dumbfounded. "You guys are classmates. It should be easier for you to talk than for me. Isn't he the one who had a good relationship with you?" Chensuru flushed and whispered, "Teacher, that was in the past." Song Wenbo tried to persuade her earnestly. "Let me tell you, boys are actually really easy to coax. Just go over and say a few nice words. See if that works out. How about you treat him to a meal and I'll pay for it?" After all, I also share some responsibility for Lin Yifei dropping out. Things really weren't handled right from the start. Chensuru replied with a bit of grievance. "Teacher, then why aren't you willing to call Lin Yifei? Wouldn't it be fine if you just told him?" Teacher Song Wenbo instantly froze. His mouth opened slightly, wanting to say something but unable to get it out. Chensuru suddenly mustered up her courage and said, "Teacher, you wouldn't happen to be too proud to lose face, would you?" Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo's face turned dark in a split second. "What kind of nonsense are you talking about? You can go back to class now." Chensuru immediately responded, "Alright then, I'll head back." However, the moment the student stepped out of the office, homeroom teacher Song Wenbo immediately regretted it. He slapped his head, this. Song Wenbo gritted his teeth, and finally found the student directory on his computer, staring at a string of phone numbers. His finger just couldn't bring itself to press the dial button. Left with no choice, he could only summon my desk mate Sun Fei. Sun Fei arrived at the office and stood there upright. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo squeezed out a smile and said, "You used to be desk mates with Lin Yifei, right? Your relationship should be pretty decent too. Do you think you could talk to him about this? Could he stop writing that novel on Second High's forum and come back to update it on First High? Or else, Could we wait until after the college entrance exams to write it? Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo smiled shamelessly and said, I'm mainly worried this might affect his studies. Sunfei asked knowingly, teacher he already transferred out. Are you still stressing over his grades? Besides going back to update on First High's forum, would affect his studies just as much. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo cleared his throat awkwardly and continued. That's definitely different. Just tell me, can you help the teacher communicate with Lin Yifei? Sunfei feigned hesitation and said, Teacher, I can, but homeroom teacher Song Wenbo's eyes instantly lit up. But what spit it out? Sunfei purposely scratched his head and said, I still owe him money, so I'm too embarrassed to reach out to him on my own. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo waved his hand and said, Oh, is that all? What's the big deal about that? How much do you owe him? The teacher will pay it for you. Sunfei asked in disbelief, Really? Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo thought to himself. This concerns the school's reputation, and it's also tied to his own application for senior teacher qualifications. With that realization, he generously said, Of course. Besides, aren't I asking a favor of you? How much is it? Sunfei lowered his head, rubbed his nose, and said, Actually, it's not that much. Just 400 yuan. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo gritted his teeth. Fine. The teacher will cover this 400 yuan for you. Just tell Lin Yifei that it would be best. I said it would be best if we wait until after the college entrance exams to write this novel. Even though he's transferred now, as a teacher, I still worry about him messing up his college entrance exams. After all, this involves a person's crucial developmental stage in life. Sunfei held back a laugh and said, Teacher, I can do it. But I can't make any guarantees either. You know what? Forget it. I'll just wait until I have money to pay him back myself. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo immediately pulled out his phone generously, saying, Come on. I'll scan the code right now. 25010. The teacher isn't going to make you pay this money back either. But you've got to put real effort into persuading him. Seriously, this affects his studies way too much. Sunfei grinned and said, Teacher, you really don't need me to pay that back. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo said, No need. The teacher's word is final. All right then, I'll give it a try. And just like that, 400 yuan was actually transferred over. Teacher, I'll head back to class first then. I'll let you know once Lin Yifei replies to me. Go on back then. As soon as Sunfei stepped out of the office, he immediately sent me a message, Ha 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 ha. We made absolute bank, you might not believe this. But Song Wenbo gave me 400 yuan just to persuade you to stop writing that novel. Looks like this homeroom teacher, Song Wenbo, is seriously panicking. The corners of my mouth curled up slightly, and I muttered to myself, I've got to drop a chapter tonight to celebrate. Returning home that evening, everyone was busy reviewing to prepare for tomorrow's four-school joint examination. Meanwhile, I was busy researching how to register a Taobao store. I remembered that a few years down the line, e-commerce and online shopping would usher in a massive wave of growth. Opening an online store right now might not count as taking the absolute first bite of meat, but it could at least be the second or third bite, at least entering the market before the online shopping boom impacts the physical retail economy. As for choosing a platform, I wasn't planning on building a long-term brand, but rather hoping to make a quick killing in the short term. So I picked a very niche industry that was also overlooked by quite a few people, which was selling mushroom lingerie. However, since I was still a student, I still had to keep a low profile. Fortunately, I had just turned 18 last month, meeting the ID card requirement for opening a store. Suddenly, Sunfei sent a message, Holy shit, Lin Yifei, did your account get hacked? Nope, I'm planning to open a store selling this stuff. No way, you definitely got hacked, because in Sunfei's impression, I was a hardcore straight-laced guy in the truest sense. Plus a science prodigy, no matter what, he could never imagine that I would send someone pictures of mushroom lingerie. The craziest part was that I actually said I wanted to sell it, mostly because I didn't really have many super close friends at the moment, so I just casually sent the mushroom lingerie photos over and asked Sunfei to help pick out a batch. It wasn't until 10:30 at night that I finally finished adjusting the samples and uploaded all the product photos. After that, I went through some test papers and dozed off. Early the next morning, I arrived at the classroom. Shortly after, the proctor also entered the room. Suddenly, Liu Jiang spoke up to me. Oh, right. Feiji, how's your Chinese? Pretty decent, I guess. If nothing unexpected happens, it should be the Liu Jiang gave a thumbs up and said, Grade for... However, before he could even finish his sentence, a familiar voice suddenly rang out. Grade first. Just make sure I don't catch you cheating. I looked up and instantly froze. The proctor turned out to be Liu Cheng, the head of discipline at First High. That was when I remembered that the four-school joint exams seemed to involve teachers from all four schools cross-proctoring each other. Alright, now put away all your books and review materials completely. If I catch anyone bringing cheat sheets, plagiarizing, or cheating later on, I'm confiscating your test paper on the spot. I don't know how things are at second high, but cheating at first high means notifying your parents. After saying that, Liu Qiang didn't forget to shoot me a side glance. As soon as I got the test paper, I immediately started writing away. In the blink of an eye, over an hour passed. Teacher, can I turn my paper in early? Sit. I smiled slightly and raised my hand to ask. I glanced at the wall clock in the classroom. There were still 45 minutes left before the end. There was no need to keep lingering here. Then the second high teacher, Liu Qiang, said, not yet. Remember, handing in papers is not allowed during the last 30 minutes of the exam. Yet I ultimately ended up right at the 30-minute mark. Yet in the end, I still got stuck right at the 30-minute mark. 2601 Nankon, handing in my test paper early. First high's head of discipline. Liu Qiang collected the paper and even pulled me aside to talk outside. Liu Qiang furrowed his brow and asked, what? That novel on First High's forum was written by you? Never heard of you having a talent like that. How come you didn't show it before? I smiled slightly. Director, I heard the Education Bureau leadership even praised me. Remember to tell the leadership that I'm at second high now. Liu Qiang's face instantly darkened. Getting praised a little made you cocky, huh? Let me tell you. For the college entrance exam, the focus is still on studying. Spending all day messing around with useless stuff is simply a waste of time. Afterward, I slowly replied, right. Everything the director says is right. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave then. I can head back just in time to write 2 chapters of my novel. Who knows, maybe the Education Bureau leadership is still waiting for my updates. Liu Qiang blew his top in rage, since I was truly bringing up the exact touchy subject he was dodging. Watching me walk away, he immediately pulled out his phone and sent a message to First High's homeroom teacher, Song Wenbo. I'm being driven crazy by this student of yours, writing a trash novel and thinking he's so hot. Hurry up and deal with it. Song Wenbo replied, Director, I gave it some thought. Since he isn't willing to be persuaded to delete it, let's host a literature contest at school instead. First High has so many students, there's no way not a single one can outdo him right. When better writers emerge by then, won't this issue be resolved? Liu Qiang's eyes lit up. That's actually a great idea. I'll suggest it to the principal later. Truth be told, First High's actions were indeed fast. Right after the Chinese exam ended, every homeroom teacher had already passed down the notice. Submissions were open in the form of novels, and gold, uchar, bronze awards would be selected in the end, with the principal personally awarding medals, and outstanding works being collected into the school library. Since the event covered 10th, 11th, and 12th grades, quite a few students actually responded actively, creating content on the school forum one after another. Several students even started writing novels right away. I heard First High is hosting some literature competition. At this moment, Jiang Shiki, who was currently eating, paused for a second and instinctively glanced at me sitting next to Wen Menqi. I heard about it too. Ha ha ha, pretty interesting. Afterward, the group chatted for a bit about the exam situation. You guys can prepare in advance an essay regarding environmental governance. I feel like there's a huge chance it'll be tested because recent news frequently mentions environmental governance, including things like waste recycling. Jiang Shiki couldn't help praising, wow, you're so amazing. No wonder you're a top student. So, can all you First High students predict the exam topics in advance? Wen Menqi pulled out her phone while eating. I chuckled playfully. My predictions are relatively accurate. Hard to say for others. Oh, right, Wen Tongsui, we agreed that you're treating me to a movie tomorrow, so don't flake out on me. In the afternoon, Science Comprehensive and English were tested. As the bell rang, the proctors began collecting papers. Everyone stood up and stretched their backs. After sitting for a whole day, they were truly exhausted. Returning to the classroom, Jiang Shiki looked at me excitedly like she was looking at an idol. Plus, several girls next to her all shouted out, "You're back, Lin Yifei?" The English essay was actually about environmental protection. Who knew you'd actually predict it right? I feigned modesty and chuckled, just good luck. At this moment, when Menqi also returned to the classroom, happily telling Jiang Shiki how effortlessly she wrote her English essay. Right at this moment, the English teacher who served as the homeroom teacher returned to the classroom as well. Liang Yuting stood on the podium and chuckled. I won't hand out your English test papers this weekend. Also, I have an announcement to make. I don't know if you guys have heard, but First High is hosting a literature creation contest. As those words dropped, many students in class purposefully turned back to glance at us sitting in the back row. Our school won't be doing this literature creation contest. We'll be doing something else. With just over 100 days left until the college entrance exams, our school has prepared a study group initiative. Each group will have 4 members, and we'll try our best to directly pick 4 students who excel in different subjects, so everyone can help each other study and teach their best subjects to the rest of the group. However, right at this moment, I raised my hand and said, "Teacher, actually I have an idea. The study group framework is actually being implemented by many schools already, but the results are far from ideal. I suggest changing this private group setup. Let's switch to groups with flexible member council and promote student-led teaching. Listen to whatever you feel is useful to you so that everyone can bring out their own specialized strengths and reinforce their own knowledge while teaching others. As for students who have weak spots, they can also pick more top-tier mini-teachers instead of being restricted to the teachers within their own group. As soon as those words came out, many students nodded one after another, as expected of a top student hitting the nail right on the head. Friday dismissal was filled with cheers and laughter. Clearly, the arrival of the weekend put everyone in a pretty great mood. Yet what followed left me somewhat surprised. Who would have thought that the little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, actually took the public bus home? No wonder students were completely mind-blown after graduation, since nobody knew her family was actually that loaded. In the blink of an eye, it was Saturday morning, at 2 p.m. I had a date to meet Wen Mengqi at Wanda Plaza. I had prepared quite thoroughly for this date, not only buying 2 cups of milk tea, but also getting an exquisite little bracelet as a gift. After a short while, I spotted a familiar figure appearing in the distance. The little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, was wearing a white dress, holding a small white bag in her hand, standing at 163 centimeters tall and wearing small high heels. Her overall vibe had an incredible amount of class, even though she was still barefaced, hadn't learned how to do makeup yet, and still hadn't taken off her glasses. You could already tell she was budding into a little beauty. This was the first time I had ever seen what she looked like out of her school uniform. The little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, said timidly in a soft voice, "Oh, does it look good?" while nervously pinching her fingers. I burst out laughing and said, "It looks great. What about the milk tea and the gift I bought you?" Wen Mengqi shook her head. Holding the box, I directly shoved it into her hands and smiled, "Open it and take a look. If you don't like it, you should be able to exchange it." Only then did Wen Mengqi cautiously open the box, instantly freezing in place. I seized the moment and said, "How is it? Let me help you put it on." Wen Mengqi stood there in a daze, and before she even had time to react, she realized the bracelet was already fastened around her wrist. Afterward, I naturally took Wen Mengqi's hand and walked into the mall. Clearly, it was Wen Mengqi's first time holding hands with a boy. She looked a bit shy and tried to struggle, but in the end she was still held by me, having no choice but to lower her head and obediently follow behind me, while being led along, all the way up to the 4th floor of the mall. Probably because it was the weekend, there were quite a lot of people at the movie theater. "Wait here for a moment, I'm going to grab the tickets." "Oh right, do you want to buy some popcorn?" As soon as I asked, I realized it was a redundant question, because the little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, was already staring straight at a nearby kid's popcorn and drooling. However, right at that moment, a familiar voice rang out. "Lin Yifei?" Sunfei shouted excitedly, "What are you doing here too?" I turned around to look and found Sunfei, along with 2 other first-high classmates, actually standing right behind me. After chatting for a bit in line, I carried the popcorn and orange juice over and found the little rich girl, Wen Mengqi. Then I smiled and said, "Let's go. It's time to check our tickets." Just seeing my first-high classmates drop by, Wen Mengqi was instantly terrified into a daze, shyly burying her head out of fear of being seen by others. Watching her adorably dorky look almost cracked me up. To be honest, even though the little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, doesn't know how to do makeup right now, her bare face isn't bad at all. It's just due to her personality, that she wasn't popular in her school class. Right at this moment, Sunfei and the others started jeering after seeing us. Wang Sung Tao even purposely took a sneaky photo and posted it in their class group chat. The class chat instantly came alive. "Lin Yifei is such a scumbag. Didn't he like Chen Xiru? How is he out watching a movie with another girl?" Suddenly someone tagged Chen Xiru and sent a message, "He used to like you, didn't he? How did he change his mind after transferring?" Chen Xiru didn't say anything, just gritted her teeth and forwarded the photo to Shen Xinyue. "Oh my god, where is this taken?" It was snapped by the boys in our class when they ran into them at the movie theater. To be honest with you, that girl is the type who gets laughed at in our class. I'm floored that Lin Yifei would actually take a fancy to her. Following that, Shen Xinyue endlessly spilled every single detail about me and Wen Mengqi to Chen Xiru. At this moment, the little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, and I were sitting in the corner of the movie theater. I leaned in close to her ear and asked in a soft voice, "Is this your first time coming out to watch a movie with a guy?" Wen Mengqi dazed out and nodded, then went back to munching on popcorn. "This is so good." I was genuinely amused by her adorable dorkiness. "Why didn't you before? Did nobody ask you out? Or did your family not allow it?" Wen Mengqi hesitated for a second, then made a gesture with her mouth to answer, "Not allowed." So you snuck out today?" Wen Mengqi nodded like a pecking chick, while intentionally making a hush gesture. "Are you heading home for dinner tonight?" Wen Mengqi was dumbfounded. She nodded as if it were only natural. Suddenly, she nervously struck a self-defense pose, crossing her arms over her chest and staring at me vigilantly. I burst out laughing so hard I died. I meant whether we should eat outside before heading back, or go home for dinner. I wasn't asking if you were going home tonight or not. Only then did Wenmenki realize she had apparently misunderstood. Her earlobes instantly flushed slightly red, and she muttered a soft, "Oh, I found this little rich girl way too cute." Though this was good too. At least she knew how to protect herself, and wouldn't be too easily tricked by guys. When the movie ended, it was already 5:30. After parting ways with Wenmenki, I didn't head straight home, but instead sent a message to Sun Fei, arranging to grab a bite together nearby. I smiled and said, "The reason I'm looking for you is actually to ask for a favor. Your cousin should still be working as an internet cafe net admin, right?" Sun Fei paused for a second and said, "Huh, are you calling for backup again? Who did you offend this time?" I shook my head with a smile. "It's not that I didn't offend anyone. I just want to find some people to buy stuff from my online store, so that the sales volume on my shop can get a boost." Subsequently, I explained the profit splits and operations to him one by one. In the blink of an eye, the weekend break was over. Sunday moved pretty fast too, pulling together over 30 people right off the bat. I was busy from 3 p.m. all the way until 7 p.m. So exhausted, I felt completely dizzy. Just as I wanted to rest for a bit, I suddenly noticed the class group chat blowing up. Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting had sent a message with our classmates because Jung Yen-song's grandmother was hospitalized for a cerebral hemorrhage, and his father was also in a car accident last week. Things are pretty tough for his family right now. After looking into the situation, I hope everyone can lend a helping hand together to help teacher Jung Yen-song. Next week, the class will go together with the parents to visit Jung Yen-song's grandmother at the hospital. I paused for a second, then suddenly a flash of inspiration hit me. I smiled and thought, give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish. Donations probably won't raise much. The donation probably won't raise much. 2901, helping me with work can at least earn them a little money. So I got Jung Yen-song's phone number from the homeroom teacher, called him to understand his family situation, and incidentally explained how to make money as well. After figuring it all out, the guy was practically blown away and immediately wanted to go into business with me. The next morning was entirely spent going over the 4-school joint exam test papers. After having lunch at noon, someone suddenly patted me on the shoulder. I looked up and saw Chinese teacher Luo Wenxuan standing at the classroom door. Chinese teacher Luo Wenxuan said, "The 4-school joint exam results are out. You kid are actually something else. Out of all of second high, we only had 2 full score compositions, and one of them was yours. Plus you ranked 4th in Chinese." A light flashed in my eyes. Oh, that's not bad. What happens if I didn't get first place in the whole school? After all, I had bragged previously by telling the teacher not to worry about me during class. Subsequently, Chinese teacher Luo Wenxuan said, "Just wait until the scores are posted and see for yourself." "Right, are you sure that novel of yours was written by yourself? There's no plagiarism, right?" I nodded. Luo Wenxuan said, "It's fine. I just wanted to confirm, because tomorrow, the Education Bureau leadership is coming over for an inspection. Didn't First High set up a literature creation contest, even though our school doesn't have one? We're also planning to establish a literature club in the 11th grade to cultivate students' reading and writing abilities. The principal's idea is to directly call you over to attend an open class. So, as a representative role model for students, share some writing insights, talk about how you embarked on the path of writing, and so on. By then, the leaders might also sit in to audit this open class. So if you have time tomorrow, you can organize the plot of your novel and excerpt some passages into it, so you can have a bit more persuasiveness during your speech." When I returned to the classroom, Zhang Shiki curiously looked up and asked, "What did the teacher want with you?" I smiled slightly. "Nothing much, just telling me I got 4th place in the grade for Chinese." Instantly, all the surrounding classmates excitedly crowded around. They even said our school had 2 full score compositions in total, and I got one of them. Everyone immediately looked at me with envious gazes. "Right, Lin Yifei, have you checked out that literature creation contest over the past week? It cracks me up so much. They set up a popularity vote, and do you know who got first place?" Classmate Guo Yanzi explained, barely holding back his laughter. "It's you, to be exact. It's your novel that got the highest vote count, completely crushing 2nd place. In fact, 2nd place all the way to 10th place. Combined, don't even add up to your vote count." Meanwhile, First High's vice principal, Guo Haibo, was panting heavily with anger in his office. He cursed at Song Wenbo over the phone. Take a look for yourself at what the situation is online right now. All of them combined don't even add up to his single score. This is simply absurd. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo opened up the internet to take a look and was also left dumbfounded. The rankings of the last 9 places combined couldn't even match the first place's vote count. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo nervously stammered, "No, no." Principal Guo listened to me. "This leaderboard is definitely inaccurate and meaningless. This Lin Yifei dropped out a long time ago and completely doesn't meet our competition rules. So this has no reference value." Vice Principal Guo Haibo sneered. "Oh, old song, old song? Are you genuinely stupid or just pretending? Does that even matter? Take a look at what this looks like right now. Right now, immediately. I want to see a piece of work that can match Lin Yifei's novel. Then, knock that first place spot down for me." Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo took a deep breath, suddenly had a flash of inspiration and said, "Wait." Suddenly a flash of inspiration hit and I said, "Wait." 3001 to Principal Guo, "I suddenly have an idea. How about we find a teacher to write one and then snatch back this first place spot? What do you think?" Vice Principal Guo Haibo hesitated for a moment and retorted, "You want a teacher to write it?" Song Wenbo said, "Teacher Liu published a book before, right? Having him write it definitely won't be a problem." Vice Principal Guo Haibo shook his head and said, "No way. Isn't that just cheating? A teacher winning against students is indefensible." Song Wenbo said, "Of course Teacher Liu wouldn't write it personally. He could tutor a student to write it like a one-on-one thing." Vice Principal Guo Haibo waved his hand and said, "Forget it, forget it. There's no need to make a fuss over this. I suppose the leadership already knows about this kid transferring, since he wrote it himself anyway. Just delete that ranking list. Afterward, issue a solemn statement restricting registration to our school's students only. Odd tied for first place in the whole class, odd tied for third place in the grade. As expected of a first high top student coming in and taking first place right away." Everyone looked at me with envious gazes. "This here is your English transcript, and the scores for each subject will be brought over by the teachers during class. However, as your homeroom teacher, I actually have a surprise Chinese grade first place. Is right here in our class." As those words dropped, everyone grew excited. Jiang Shiki purposely turned back to glance at me. I waved both hands and said, "It's not me. I'm ranked 4th. Yet the next second, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting smiled and said, "It is you, Lin Yifei." Instantly, all the classmates turned around to look at me. Didn't he just say he was 4th? Several classmates had heard my words just moments ago. At this time, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting asked in astonishment, "Who said he was 4th in the grade?" At this point, a classmate chimed in with a smile. "Earlier, when the Chinese teacher walked by, it seemed like she said he was ranked 4th. Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting immediately corrected them. "He is literally 1st in the grade." As those words fell, thunderous applause erupted. Even when Monkey was looking at me with an expression of pure admiration, I rubbed my nose and smiled, just pure luck. I couldn't possibly tell them this was my second time taking the test right. Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting smiled and said, "All right. Wait until the Chinese teacher's class starts to go over his full score composition with you all." On the other side, in a first high classroom, the Chinese teacher was handing out test papers. Students who received their papers started whispering amongst themselves, "Holy crap, you're so amazing. A 53 on the composition, yo." The Chinese teacher suddenly sighed and said, "For this exam, I really don't know what to say anymore. The composition topic had already been given to you in advance. Yet as a result, a massive group of people still got 45s and 48s on their essays." Suddenly, the teacher turned and asked Sun Fei, "How did you do?" Sun Fei lowered his head awkwardly and said, "Teacher, my score isn't that great. Ugh. What a waste of time. You used to sit next to Lin Yifei anyway." Sun Fei explained. "Likely Lin Yifei's Chinese wasn't that good either though." Chinese teacher Liu Yun answered unhurriedly, "Originally, since he transferred, there was no need to pay attention. But the kid is genuinely impressive. In this 4-school joint exam, Lin Yifei's Chinese score ranked 4th, and he even got a perfect score on the composition." As those words fell, Sun Fei dropped his jaw in shock and said, "No way. Teacher, I remember Lin Yifei's Chinese was trash. Could it be that he turned on some cheat codes after going to second high?" Chinese teacher Liu Yun rolled her eyes and smiled. "Maybe he's actually trying hard since he went to second high for the competition." Hearing this, Sun Fei was left speechless and torn between laughter and tears. "Trying hard, my ass. The hell is he trying hard? He's messing around in group chats, running an online store, selling mushroom lingerie, and going on movie dates with female classmates." As the bell for the last class rang, I stood by the stairwell and looked at the score rankings posted in the hallway. Jiang Shiki and Wen Menqi were standing nearby. "Whoa, so amazing. 1st in grade for Chinese, 3rd in grade for math, 3rd in grade for English. It's just science comprehensive that lagged a bit behind, making total score 10th in the grade, yo." Jiang Shiki exclaimed with deep envy. If only the science comprehensive score could have been pulled up a bit higher. Little did she know my weak point in my past life was Chinese, while my strong points were science comprehensive and math. English was somewhere in the middle, but science comprehensive's chemistry and biology actually had a lot of hard facts that needed memorization, which I had completely thrown to the back of my mind after graduating. So, coming back via reincarnation, being able to pull off this score was already considered pretty good. As for science comprehensive, its 3 subjects far surpassed my past scores. Wen Menki pointed at her own name, and then tugged at me, signaling for me to take a look. The little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, ranked 41st in the grade. She pointed her tender white little finger at her science comprehensive score, and then looked at me with a hint of smugness, as if she were showing off something. I smiled slightly and said, "Yo, you tested pretty well." I instinctively pinched Wen Menqi's nose and said, "Lift your scores up a bit, and don't go to the Shanghai Conservatory of Music. Go to the Central Conservatory of Music in Beijing instead. That way, you'll be able to see me." Zhang Shiki asked in surprise from the side, "Are you going to study in Beijing? What school are you testing for?" Afterward, I answered as a matter of course. Tsinghua and Peking University, of course. Hearing this, Wen Menqi asked blankly, "How did you know I was going to the Shanghai Conservatory of Music?" Based on my memories from my past life, I clearly remembered that the little rich girl went to the Shanghai Conservatory of Music, even though it was also a top-tier arts institution in the country. As someone reborn, I definitely had to apply to the absolute top universities in the nation. Whether it's the diploma, social circles, or future development, everything is completely different. Besides, my most confident asset right now is the college entrance exam. After the college entrance exam, I would actually lose my advantage. During these few years of college, I could still rely on my foresight of future developments to start a business and grow. Once these few years pass, the difficulty of changing one's life will multiply countless times. Therefore, every single day right now is extremely crucial to me. Writing novels was originally the most reliable path, since I knew which works would blow up later on. But relying solely on memory might not necessarily replicate classic works perfectly. Just at this time, having the little rich girl's financial backing, I found that e-commerce might just be a shortcut that leads to success even more easily. The next morning, the moment I arrived at school, I received a call from Chinese teacher Lo Wen Xuan, asking me to head over to the office. I hurriedly returned to the classroom, put down my school bag, and was shocked to discover that another breakfast was placed on my desk. At this moment, Shen Xinyue ran over with a cheeky grin and said, "I bought this for you. How come you're still buying your own?" Then she intentionally leaned into my ear and whispered with a smile, "Mushroom lingerie." With a snort of laughter, she returned to her seat and sat down. Yesterday, she had accidentally seen Zheng Yansong packing courier packages and posting a moment's update about logistics. So she privately messaged him to ask. Never did she expect that upon asking she would find out that so many things had happened without her knowing. I chuckled and said, "Better not spread that around." Shen Xinyue happily walked over, took my breakfast away, and said, "Then you're eating mine. Don't you dare give anything to Wen Mengqi anymore, or else I'll tell everyone your secret." I frowned and teased, "Are you threatening me?" Shen Xinyue replied in a spoiled, cutesy tone, "I just want you to eat the breakfast I bought, that's all. I know you intentionally gave it to Wen Mengqi last time. And I also know you two went to watch a movie on Saturday. Where am I worse than her? Why won't you give me a chance?" She naturally fancied top students, especially after this for-school joint exam, which made her even more deeply interested in me, even though we knew each other from elementary school days, and she had even chased after my elementary school self. She felt it didn't matter. Anyway, Chen Xiro had also said she never went out with the guy, just having a tiny bit of ambiguity between them. Not to mention they had blocked each other on everything now. Moreover, what Shen Xinyue was especially unconvinced about was that she looked better than Wen Mengqi, was better at talking than her, and was more proactive too. How could she possibly lose out to that dorky girl? I immediately replied, "Sure, if you block Chen Xiru and get into Tsinghua or Peking University, I'll consider it if you pull that off." In a blink, the bell for the first class rang, and physics teacher Nango Xing walked into the classroom. "You guys should have seen your grades already. So take out your test papers now." "Right, where's Lin Yifei?" I raised my hand and said, "Right here, teacher." "Are you targeting me or something? You scored so high in Chinese, math, and English. Yet science comprehensive totally bombed." As those words dropped, the physics teacher grabbed his test paper and started going over it with everyone. You could immediately tell he was the high-efficiency kind of teacher. By the second class, we could see school leadership patrolling around the campus. Right then, a leader walked up to our classroom door and asked, "Just moments ago, you mentioned that student who transferred over from First High. Is he right in this classroom?" Following that, Director of Studies Liu Xiaoping walked over with a smile, exchanged greetings with the physics teacher, and called out, "Is Lin Yifei here? Step outside for a moment." I stood up from my seat, instantly becoming the center of attention as all the classmates focused their gazes on me. I slowly walked out of the classroom, then politely nodded to the teachers and said, "Hello." Director of Studies Liu Xiaoping told me, don't be nervous. This is Director Song from the Provincial Education Bureau. And these folks here are all leaders and teachers from the Education Bureau, Director Song said with a smile. So, you're that author who wrote about dropping out of school on the first high? Tieba Forum, right? Not bad at all. I heard you transferred over from first high. So you must have an understanding of both schools. And your grades are pretty good too, right? It seemed to be because of that. Director of Studies Liu Xiaoping chimed in, fighting. This kid has a bit of a fiery temper, but his grades are top-notch. He was in the top 10 of the grade at first high. And coming over to second high, he's also in the top 10 of the grade for this four-school joint exam, Director Song said with a chuckle. Fighting is definitely wrong. I just want to ask, where do you think the biggest difference between first high and second high lies? Which school's study atmosphere do you think is better? As those words fell, second high's Director of Studies Liu Xiaoping was left completely numb. That question came way too abruptly. He looked at me rather nervously. I paused for a split second and then began to speak. It's like this. I feel the study pressure at first high is a bit more intense, but I happen to prefer second high. As those words dropped, second high's Director of Studies Liu Xiaoping flashed an 8-toothed smile. Could you be a bit more specific? Why do you prefer second high? Studying at first high? It felt like I wasn't studying for myself, but rather for the school, for my parents, and for so-called filial duty to not let my parents down. This mindset places an immense amount of study pressure on students, while also carrying a sense of grievance. For instance, when I was at second high, the homeroom teacher has said more than once, and the Director of Studies says this too, don't let your parents' expectations down. You need to know that studying is the most important thing right now. Think about how hard your parents worked to send you to first high and so on. You must repay your parents. While I think filial piety is naturally important, and repaying parents is also crucial, over-instilling this concept in students is detrimental to a teenager's ideological growth. We're studying for the sake of others. So that's why we study. But it's different at second high. When I was at first high, PE class was free time. Yet during free time, many people would still go back to the classroom to self-study. Because of this, students' physical health and fitness were much worse. Coming to second high PE class requires running 800 meters. Once that's done, everyone plays as they should and rests as they should. At a glance, it doesn't have as thick of a studying atmosphere as first high, but it is much more aligned with a learning style that balances work and rest. In my view, second high's educational philosophy towards students is completely different from first high's. Perhaps in terms of academic scores, first high might have a slight advantage, but I feel that from the perspective of all-around moral, intellectual, physical, and aesthetic student development, including after graduation down the road, second high's students might actually turn out even more outstanding. Teacher, I haven't been at second high for very long, so these are just my personal views. The Education Bureau leaders nodded one after another after hearing that. That was phrased brilliantly, as expected of someone who writes novels. This kid's logic theory and choice of words are all extremely rigorous. A leader half-jokingly said to the Director of Studies, if this kid hadn't been someone we randomly thought of, calling out to question on the spot, I would have thought you guys had prepared a speech script ahead of time in just this one go. He laid out the pros and cons of first high and second high very clearly indeed. Director of Studies Liu Xiaoping said with a chuckle, that's definitely impossible. It's mainly because Lin Yifei is genuinely quite exceptional, and his mindset is also more mature than the average classmate. In this four-school joint exam, he even scored a rare full mark on his composition. His expression skills are top-notch. Director of Studies Liu Xiaoping patted my shoulder with great satisfaction, instantly improving his impression of me by a few notches. He really knows how to talk. It sounded like he was praising second high, yet the praise wasn't overly obvious, and ending it with a remark about not being here for long made it feel very comfortable for the leaders to hear, not at all like one-sided flattery. Right at this moment, an Education Bureau leader adjusted his glasses and said, right, there's also this. The provincial authorities want to pick a school to serve as a provincial exemplary model school. The evaluation criteria naturally include the study environment, college admission rates, faculty strength, as well as various other conditions of the school. From the current look of it, first high matches this exemplary school status a bit more. If you had to vote, which school would you vote for? I purposely rubbed the back of my head and pretended to answer with great difficulty, teacher. Then I'll speak the honest truth. Whichever school I'm at is the one I hope gets selected, so I vote for second high. Several teachers burst out laughing heartily. Hahaha, true. Everyone hopes their own alma mater gets selected. Right at this moment, I mustered up my courage and said, teacher, can I take a photo with you guys? It's like this, I'm a bit of a vanity-driven person, and I want to brag to others that the leaders chatted with me. At this moment, the few Education Bureau leaders were completely amused by these remarks. This kid is too interesting. We're not celebrities. What's there to brag about? I explained with a naive, goofy expression. But I feel that being able to be a leader at the Education Bureau is already super awesome. Upon seeing this, the leaders thought, this kid was quite amusing indeed. And since he also praised them like celebrities, and could even use a photo to brag, they immediately said, fine, we'll take one with you. Right, your novel writing is pretty good too. Keep up the hard work, and strive to become a great writer in the future. I immediately took a photo or two with the leaders, and smoothly posted it to my WeChat moment. Awesome, the Education Bureau leaders praised me, and even asked me whether first high or second high is better. That afternoon, Jung Yansung, who had taken some time off, also returned to the classroom for lessons. A bunch of classmates who were on okay terms with him all came over to show their concern. Jung Yansung offered a brief explanation of a few things before slumping over his desk. At this moment, Liu Xiang whispered from the side, during the few days you weren't here, Lin Yifei has been an absolute boss. Following that, he recounted everything that had happened during his absence and even brought up how Shen Xinyue had bought me breakfast. Right at this moment, I suddenly picked up an unopened bottle of milk and tossed it over, saying, just bought it, how are things going? Jung Yansong caught the milk and pulled me out to the hallway, even walking all the way to the end of the corridor for a private chat. This completely dumbfounded the surrounding classmates. Since when did they get so close? Jiang Shishki couldn't help asking Wen Menqi with burning gossip curiosity. Weren't those two about to fight? How come they're chatting together all of a sudden? Wen Menqi also shook her head blankly. Even Shen Xinyue was stunned. Those two were actually chatting and laughing with each other. The results are really great right now. Quite a lot of genuine customer traffic has come in. Yesterday, I calculated that we sold 36 orders. After chatting a bit about the current state of the online store, I chuckled, patted his shoulder, and said, right, why don't you hurry up and chase Shen Xinyue? Otherwise, she keeps annoying me. Jung Yansong lowered his head, smiled awkwardly, and said, it's not that I don't want to, but you saw it yourself. I've tried every single method out there, and I feel like she still prefers someone smart like you, with great academic grades. I smiled slightly and said, why don't you just level up and score higher than her? Who knows, she might even end up chasing you back instead. Jung Yansong didn't even dare to imagine Shen Xinyu turning around to chase him. Trust me, Shen Xinyue isn't actually that hard to chase. The key isn't the chasing. The key is making yourself strong enough to make her look up to you. During lunch, I opened WeChat Moment and immediately burst out laughing, especially at that photo with the Education Bureau leaders. It was getting completely flooded with likes. Oh, awesome. The Education Bureau leaders even asked you whether first high or second high is better, as expected of you. Totally stealing the spotlight even after going to second high. Even Sun Fei sent a private message, just eating lunch, and seeing your Moments post, I suspected you did it on purpose. So I helped take a screenshot and reposted it on my own Moments. Good bro, 666. At this moment, Arts Committee member Yan Ziki walked over and said, Wen Menqi, are you signing up for the art performance the teacher mentioned last time? Wen Menqi nervously shook her head and continued eating with her head lowered. Yan Ziki hesitated for a second and said, ugh, but you played really well last time. I feel like our class's strongest representative is definitely you. If you don't participate, it'll be too big of a loss. Don't you want to show off your piano playing skills in front of Lin Yifei? Hearing this, Wen Menqi's face turned beet red with shyness. I smiled and chimed in, it's fine. It all depends on whether you actually want to participate or not. Nobody can force you. At this moment, Yan Ziki intentionally leaned into Wen Menqi's ear and whispered something. Shortly after, Wen Menqi bit her lip and replied softly, okay, then I'll participate. Yan Ziki clapped her hands in delight and said, ha ha ha, that's awesome. What about you, Lin Yifei? Look, even Wen Menqi is participating. This is the final year of high school now, so if you've got talent, don't keep it hidden away. I finally understood. This arts committee member really knew how to sweet talk people. And who knows what she whispered to the little rich girl, but she actually managed to persuade her. Afterwards, I gave a brief reply, we'll see. If nobody else in the class really signs up by then, I can go too. Arts committee member Yan Ziki smiled cheekily and said, then I don't care. I'm just gonna count that as you signing up. What kind of talent do you even have? The corners of my mouth curled up slightly, and I deliberately glanced at the little rich girl, Wen Menqi, discovering that this little dummy was actually quite curious and expectant. That was when I replied, magic paper folding. On the other side, in the first high cafeteria, a few teachers were eating lunch. Teacher Song, do you remember that Lin Yifei from your class before? I heard he's doing incredible things over at second high right now. Even the Education Bureau leaders took pictures with him. Does he have someone connected in his family? Senior 3 Class 2 homeroom. Teacher Song Wenbo knitted his brow slightly. What do you mean? Education Bureau leaders. Teacher Jung beside him said, I don't know. I just saw it reposted on my students' WeChat moments. Following that Senior 3 Class 2 homeroom teacher Song Wenbo saw that exact moment's post of mine. Song Wenbo stared in dumbfounded shock and said, This I really didn't know. I've never heard of him having any connections like this. Instantly, his heart plummeted heavily to the bottom of his stomach. Is something actually going to go wrong because of this? Panicking as he finished his lunch, he nervously asked Teacher Jung, Can you forward this photo to me? Teacher. Song Wenbo hurriedly bolted away from the cafeteria, leaving the remaining teachers unable to resist teasing him, and diving straight into eating melon gossip. I heard this Lin Yifei dropped out precisely because he got into a fight with someone. If the kid genuinely has backing, there's a good chance his senior teacher application is going to be in deep trouble. You guys don't know this, but actually the student who got into a fight with Lin Yifei is... Right at this moment, Song Wenbo arrived at the dean's office. Liu Qiang knitted his brows and glanced at the photo. It really was the higher-up leaders, and just judging by the background, it should be inside Second High's campus. Following that, he called up a teacher he had a relatively good relationship with at Second High to find out the situation. After hanging up the phone, Liu Qiang spoke with a complex expression. Director, they knew this student transferred over from First High, and they even purposely called the kid out in front of the class to ask about issues between the two schools. The kid said whichever school he's studying at, he hopes that school gets selected as an exemplary key high school. Song Wenbo only then let out a breath of relief and returned to his own office. However, right at this moment, the office telephone suddenly rang. After answering the call, Liu Qiang felt his entire body go numb. Because just a moment ago, the principal actually called personally to order all Senior 3 classes to have PE class and stipulated that no one is allowed to return to the classroom, they must stay outdoors for sports. What made his heart crawl with even more hair-raising dread was that an Education Bureau leader had leaked it to them that Second High was doing better than them in this regard. Liu Qiang was genuinely terrified out of his wits, never expecting that a student had almost stirred up a massive trouble, in case it really ended up affecting First High's selection as an exemplary key high school, that truly would be losing more than they gained. Following that, Liu Qiang had a flash of inspiration and found my parents' phone number to call over. Hello, is this Lin Yifei's parent? I am First High's Director of Studies. We met once before. The child's student file is still at our school, and I happen to want to pay a visit to find out how the child is doing after transferring. Why don't you give me an address, and I'll have it delivered to your house. I'm mainly worried that because of the transfer, the child's grades might be impacted. So I'd like to chat with you about the child's situation. Although he dropped out, he still came out of our First High after all. This weekend, I'll drop by for a home visit. Just then, I had just finished school and returned home, and happened to overhear the phone call between my old man and the director of studies. I smiled slightly and said, Dad, do you think there's such a thing as good luck like this in the world? I also think it's strange, but he emphasized several times that he wanted to personally deliver it, and even said since you came from First High after all, he wanted to understand your study situation at Second High. While eating my meal, I took out my phone and handed it over to my dad. A surprised look at his son's WeChat moments. Could it be that you took a photo with the Education Bureau leaders? And because of this matter, First High's Director of Studies wants to find you. I nodded and gave a soft, yeah. After finishing my meal, I returned to my room, figuring I could just use this time to update a chapter of my novel. The next day, just as I returned to school, I ran into a piece of massive melon gossip. Word was that someone went to participate in the Sun Yat-sen University joint entrance exam and got admitted into SWSU without even needing to take the regular Gaokao. Hearing this, I muttered to myself, better just study hard and take the regular Gaokao. At that moment, returning to the classroom and just sitting down, I heard Liu Xiang say excitedly, let me tell you guys some great news. Your truly is going to SWSU, Lin Yifei. As those words fell, a massive crowd of classmates swarmed over. Could it be that you went to take the joint entrance exam too? Liu Xiang smiled smugly and said, how'd you guys know? My dad just sent me a message saying so. Haha. At this rate, the Gaokao is just a formality for me now. Quite a few people let out gasps of amazement. No way, how did you even pass? Liu Xiang replied with a cheeky grin. That's a top secret that can't be told. I let out a snort of laughter, hooked my finger at Liu Xiang and said, Liu Xiang smugly sat down at Jiang Shiqi's seat. What's up, academic weapon? Jealous, who knows? Maybe the two of us will end up at the same university, though I haven't figured out what major to study yet. I leaned in close to Liu Xiang's ear and whispered, call the police. If your luck is good, it might still not be too late. Liu Xiang stared in shock and said, what the heck you mean I got scammed? How is that possible? When we took the exam, We literally went to the computer lab inside Swissu to take it. It was organized by their school itself. How could it be fake? I sighed, shook my head, and said, then I looked up the Swissu admissions office phone number. Then look at this number. Liu Xiang said smugly, my dad already called it. The corners of my mouth curled up slightly as I mocked him. Your dad called the flyer distributing recruiter's number. That one's definitely legit. You have to search for SYSU's official website online. Though it's so early right now, nobody might answer yet. Wait until 9 o'clock and call again. Meanwhile, in the Senior 3 Class 2 classroom at First High, Chen Xiru was holding the SYSU admission list and cheering happily. Out of 201 test takers, only 21 people were admitted, and she was one of them. She even invited everyone over to her house for a big banquet celebration party. However, Sunfei was somewhat shocked. How on earth could Chen Xiru pass the CYSU joint entrance exam? She immediately felt something was a bit fishy and sent me a message. As for me, I unhurriedly turned my head back and said, haha, what a coincidence. I have a classmate who got admitted too. Though he's already crying right now. Sunfei raised her head upon seeing the message. At this moment, classmates were already swarming around Chen Xiru with all sorts of congratulations. Sunfei still couldn't help smiling derisively and saying, if I can say something that might sound a bit unpleasant. Could this thing possibly be fake? As those words dropped, everyone froze. Chen Xiru knitted her brows and glared at Sunfei. Oh, what do you mean by that? Sunfei shook her head and said, I mean, is it possible that SYSU doesn't even have a joint entrance exam at all? Chen Xiru let out a huff and replied, how could that be? When we took the exam, we literally went inside the SYSU campus to take it. Besides, after everyone paid the money, we still had to do a registration test. And only after passing the registration test could we participate in the joint exam. The joint exam was super strict too. Didn't you hear what I said just now? Less than 1/10 of people got admitted. Chen Xiru's good friend also chimed in from the side, teasing with a laugh. Exactly how could it be fake? You're just jealous and envious. I'm telling you, Sunfei, you wouldn't even be able to get into SYSU in this lifetime. Hearing this, Sunfei originally didn't want to make her words too harsh, but Liu Xian's words made her feel somewhat disgusted. She then stated directly, I just asked Lin Yifei, and he said this SYSU joint exam is fake? As those words fell, everyone was completely dumbfounded. The next second, Liu Xian gritted her teeth. What is Lin Yifei even supposed to be? He's definitely just jealous of our Xiru. I've long thought he wasn't a good person. Clearly, he was the one who threw punches and got disciplined. Yet he still tried to drag Xiru down with him. Right at this moment, a classmate suddenly suggested, why don't we just make a phone call right now and ask the SYSU admissions office to find out if she was truly admitted? It should be searchable, right? Chen Xiru instantly found a photo on her phone. And in the bottom right corner, there was the phone number for the SYSU admissions office. Hello, is this the SYSU admissions office? This is the SYSU admissions office. How can I help you? Liu Xian immediately asked anxiously, I want to ask, did your school host a joint entrance exam? Meaning an early exam, where students can get admitted without taking the regular Gaokao. The person on the phone replied with a polite smile. Yes, there is indeed such a thing, but the slots are limited, and the exams should already be over by now. As those words fell, everyone was boiling with excitement. Liu Xian and Chen Xiru did not forget to mock Sunfei ruthlessly. You and Lin Yifei are just jealous and envious. You couldn't pass yourself, so you're claiming other people's are fake. At this moment, Sunfei was also bewildered. That's not right. Lin Yifei clearly said it was fake. Why does calling this number make it real? At that moment, Sunfei knitted her brows. Something must be wrong somewhere. Immediately, she searched online for the SYSU admissions office phone number and called it during free time. The final reply she received was, your SYSU does not host any joint entrance exam, nor is there any such thing as early admission. Those exam fees you paid were definitely scammed out of you by someone. Hurry up and call the police. Our school leadership has already started launching an investigation. Hearing this, Sunfei suddenly smiled. The phone number they called just now was definitely fake. Returning to the classroom shortly after, just as homeroom teacher, Song Wenbo was explaining problems on the podium, she spoke up. Teacher, there's something I don't know if I should say. I just called and asked, and CYSU said they didn't host any joint exam. It's a scam. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo knitted his brows and said, what scam? What SYSU joint exam? Who told you guys SYSU has a joint exam? Sunfei laughed derisively and said, I didn't say it. Someone in our class said they got early admission to SYSU. Hearing this, Liu Xian retorted speechlessly, teacher, Sunfei is just jealous of Chen Xiru. People already called and asked, yet she's still making a fuss here. Sunfei sneered. Jealous of what? I already called and asked. There is no joint exam at all. And they even said the exam fees you guys paid were all scanned by someone. The reason you took the exam inside the Swiss U campus is because they initially collaborated with an educational agency, and who knew they'd pull stunts like this? The school leaders over there have already started police investigations, and you're still here being jealous of what my foot and Chinsiru said speechlessly. Didn't we already call and ask just now? Why are you so annoying? Did Lin Yifei tell you something again? Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo was a bit dazed just a moment ago, but suddenly woke up upon hearing the name Lin Yifei. What does this have something to do with Lin Yifei? What's going on? Thus, Sunfei explained the entire incident. Hearing this, homeroom teacher Song Wenbo knitted his brows and said, there really is a problem here. Because as far as I know, SYSU does not have any such thing as a joint entrance exam. If there were, I definitely would have told you guys. Chensiru was aggrieved to the extreme and said, teacher, we all called the SYSU admissions office just now, and they said it's real. I'm honestly done. Whatever Lin Yifei says, she just blindly believes it. Lu Jian also chimed in angrily. Exactly, if Lin Yifei told you to eat shit, why don't you go eat shit? Sunfei scoffed disdainfully, none of your damn business. I had good intentions reminding you and still get cursed at. With that, she turned around, kicked the door open, and walked right out. When homeroom teacher Song Wenbo saw this, he shouted loudly, making such a racket, what kind of decorum is this? I'll make a phone call to ask about it. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo took out his phone and inquired about the matter regarding the SYSU joint exam. After hanging up the phone, Song Wenbo spoke with a complex expression, Chen Siru, step outside for a moment. I just asked, there indeed is a matter concerning a SYSU joint exam. Hearing this, Chen Siru immediately smiled happily and said, I told you. There definitely was, however, the very next second. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo pulled a stern face and said, it's fake. Based on my current understanding, SYSU does not have any such thing as joint exam admissions. However, there really were quite a lot of people who took the SYSU joint exam. It was some training agencies that used the banner of the SYSU joint exam to take people's money. I heard the application fee was very expensive, right? Chensuru's eye sockets instantly turned red as she choked out, teacher. How could it be fake? But I don't know about the money my mom paid. Following that, Chensuru cried and explained the whole sequence of events. Hearing this, homeroom teacher Song Wenbo said with a bitter laugh, where in the world is there such good luck? Meanwhile, over at Second High, police officers from the local station had already arrived at the school. Liu Jiang recounted everything that happened. Teacher Liang Yuting also called over victims from other classes, letting parents go together to the police station to protect their rights. Liu Jiang finally returned to the classroom with a dejected slump, not even having the face to chat with his classmates anymore. He had just flexed so hard, only for it to turn out completely fake. Jiangshi, he and a few female students gathered around gossiping, then whispered. Word is that someone at First High also figured out it was fake. They even stupidly got into an argument in class at first. At this moment, I pulled out my phone and saw the message sent by Sun Fei. So damn satisfying. Seeing Chen Siru come back from the office crying, I feel so much better. Even our school leaders will be coming over to observe the class. The open class will be filmed and recorded when the time comes. Don't be nervous. Just follow my cues then. A few minutes later, as the bell rang, Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan held a microphone and stood on stage, saying, today the theme of our open class is how to make reading and writing your hobby. Many people say, I don't like reading books. I hate reading and I hate writing composition either, right? Is there anyone who would say, I love reading books? Raise your hand and let me see. At this moment, I raised my hand from the guest seating area beside the stage, saying, as long as it's not study books, I love reading all of them. As those words fell, the entire audience burst out, laughing, and the atmosphere instantly shot up. Several Education Bureau leaders also chuckled and joked around, how is it this kid again? This kid really is quite interesting. Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan said, all right, don't listen to him talking nonsense. He reads way more books than you guys do, in order to let us develop good reading habits and cultivate writing skills. Our school is officially establishing a literature club. Following that, he introduced the literature club, explaining that by joining it, everyone can share the books they love reading together. Novels or perhaps literary publications, extracurricular readings, and so on. You can find like-minded friends and also elevate your reading and writing during your relaxation time. Let me ask, how many people know about our Second High? Online forums novel, I dropped out. Raise your hand and let me see. As those words fell, the lower classmen in the audience raised their hands one after another. Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan said, that just shows you guys do love reading books, right? It's just that you aren't reading textbooks. Then he smiled slightly again and said, then do any of you know who wrote this novel, I dropped out? A wave of murmurs and discussions rippled through the audience. Then, smoothly riding the momentum, he said, "Now, let's invite our literature club's specially invited guest, the author of I Dropped Out, Lin Yifei from Senior 3 Class 4 to the stage." As those words fell, a thunderous applause erupted. The students in the audience opened their eyes wide one by one and looked towards me on stage. The instant I stepped on stage, it instantly ignited the atmosphere of the entire venue. "Hello everyone, I am Lin Yifei from Senior 3 Class 4. I don't focus on my proper duties and I hate studying. Everyone must absolutely not learn from me. Look at the big screen. This is my 4-school joint exam transcript. I projected my own transcript onto the PPT. Right at the opening, I laid out my top student grades. Standing on stage, I smiled and said, 'Why did I show my grades first? Does any junior student know why? Raise your hand and let me see.' Soon, a male student mustered up the courage to raise his hand and say, 'Senior, are you trying to tell us that you write novels not because you're idling away your ambition, but because you were already great at studying in the first place? At the same time, you get super high scores in both Chinese and maths. So the novels you write not only have a great writing style, but your logic is also extremely strong.' Hearing this, I chuckled and said, 'Wrong. Dead wrong. The reason I put my grades out here first was purely to flex and tell you guys that the person standing on stage is none other than a senior whose grades are miles ahead of yours. I just want to ask you all, am I badass or what?' As those words fell, the students in the audience instantly boiled over badass or totally badass. At this moment, Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan panicked, immediately grabbing the microphone and saying, 'Hey, keep your language civilized. Especially you, Lin Yifei, what are you even saying?' The leaders are all watching. The students in the audience burst into laughter, and the leaders also shook their heads with wry smiles. The principal even had to proactively explain to the leaders sitting beside him. I continued, 'Okay, back to the main topic. Flexing aside, since today I was invited as a guest to attend this literature club event to share my creative journey and so-called insights, I definitely still need to deliver some solid takeaways for everyone. Here's a catchy phrase you guys can write down. Actually, it's just 3 simple sentences. Do simple things repeatedly. Do repeated things with persistence. Do persistent things with joy.' What is meant by doing simple things repeatedly? Why did I bring up asking everyone to do simple things instead of targeting so-called difficulties? Does anyone know? At this time, 2 more girls raised their hands, but I abruptly changed my style and said, 'Don't raise your hands. I'm not going to let you answer, because first of all, I still want to flex by myself.' Another wave of laughter erupted, and the students were thoroughly amused. Then, squinting my eyes with a smile, I said, 'Because there is a saying that goes, everyone has their own strengths, and naturally, my talents will surely be of use. Everyone has a side they excel at. Some people excel at sports. Some people excel at painting. Some people excel at music. And some people excel at bullshitting. So here comes the question. In the field you excel in, does the thing you have to do end up seeming very simple? For example, is scoring 140 points in Chinese hard? The underclassmen in the audience shouted loudly, 'Hard,' while I chuckled with a tisk tsk tsk. What seems very simple to me is actually super hard for you guys. What is this? This is talent." The students were simply amused to pieces, and even the Education Bureau leaders couldn't help laughing out loud, shaking their heads, as they leaned over to each other and whispered, "This kid really knows how to talk, and he's so confident." I continued, "Doing simple things repeatedly doesn't mean doing all simple things. Rather, it means doing things that have a threshold and difficulty for others, yet appear slightly simple to you. You must do this kind of thing repeatedly, and you must never feel that it's uninteresting, boring, pointless, or lacking challenge. Because once you give up this so-called simple thing to go do difficult things, it's actually equivalent to giving up the talent you excel at and throwing away your true specialty." As those words fell, a light flickered in the eyes of the leaders in the audience. This angle of argumentation was quite interesting. Following my speech, thunderous applause erupted from the students below. Even Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan couldn't help nodding in approval. He truly lived up to being the literature top student with a full score essay. Even the Education Bureau leaders sitting in the back row, including the school principal, happily clapped along. This was spoken to well. It's way more wonderful than what I've heard those teachers say at previous schools. After the open class concluded, several leaders all smiled as they left, and even praised my talent repeatedly. And I instantly harvested tons of fangirls at school. Right off the bat, quite a few little girls mustered up the courage to come over and ask for my contact info, while I just waved my hand and turned them down. Shortly after, Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan praised me from the side. "You're doing great, kid." The principal said this open classes recorded video will be posted on Second High's official website for promotion. "It's a pity you're a senior already. Otherwise, this position of literature club president would definitely belong to you. And seriously, no lie. That very night, my speech video had already been posted on the campus forum and even pinned with a gold badge. For a moment, many students from second high swarmed in to watch the video and left all sorts of comments down below. So you're the one who wrote the novel, gay, I want to bear your children? Yet nobody knew at all that a senior student envied by so many classmates like this was actually doing a bold thing right now that people his age wouldn't even dare to imagine. Because I was hiding in my room, busy picking out new mushroom lingerie and preparing to run a promo event for Christmas. However, the upfront investment took quite a lot of money, and little rich girl Wen Mengqi's treasury was practically about to be hollowed out by me. From over 200,000, there was now only a little over 50,000 left. The next day, taking the bus back to school, I unexpectedly ran into two acquaintances. Afterwards, I looked over toward that figure, who had left a deep, indelible mark on me in my past life, and asked, did you guys get that Swiss U money back or not? Hey, why are people nowadays so bad? Hearing that Chen Saru walked up in front of me with her head lowered and whispered, I'm sorry. Good thing you reminded us, otherwise we might not have found out so quickly. Right at this moment, the bus suddenly jolted, and Chen Saru instinctively grabbed onto my arm to steady herself. She looked at me with a pitiful expression and softly said, Are you free on Christmas? I know you must still be angry, but I want to treat you to a meal to apologize, okay? She raised her head and blinked her large eyes. I have to admit, Chen Saru truly was the type of girl who looked very pretty. With her pitiful tone, even the guys on the bus were mesmerized. But this didn't work on me at all. I knitted my brows and replied, no time. Chen Saru shook my arm and acted spoiled. Come on. I know I was wrong, don't be mad at me anymore. Liu Zian also chimed in from the side to persuade me, look, Chen Saru already apologized to you. Just give her a chance. Guys shouldn't be so petty. Not gonna lie, with this routine from these two girls, a guy who was even slightly soft-hearted might really have been tricked into it by them. God knows how much psychological warfare I ate in my past life. When I finally found out that Chen Saru got together with Zhao Tianlei and even received news that they were getting married, I completely broke down. Now looking back at this so-called first love joke, I honestly didn't feel a single thing anymore. You could even say that, aside from Chen Saru's looks being not bad, the vibe the other person gave me wasn't even as good as Sun Fei's. So after resolutely turning her down, I got straight off the bus. Since Christmas was coming up, I wrote a single note and handed it to little rich girl Wen Mengqi. Wen Mengqi looked at the note containing just one word and was instantly left speechless. Right at this moment, Zheng Yansong suddenly cheered excitedly, awesome, scaring the surrounding classmates who were chatting. Then Zheng Yansong hurried over to find me, took out his phone to log into the online store vendor backend, his eyes filled with uncontrollable excitement. Look, the single product we heavily pushed for Christmas is blowing up in sales. There are so many direct messages in the backend asking when it will arrive. I slowly said, this is just the beginning. Reply uniformly like this. Just say normal shipping takes 3 to 4 days to arrive, and expedited shipping can arrive the next day. Add exclamation points for urgency, but they have to pay the shipping fee. Zheng Yansong gritted his teeth and said, I'm taking half a day off. With so many customers inquiring, my sister is definitely too busy to handle it all. I had a flash of inspiration and said, I have a way. At this moment, the two of us came to the classroom office, knocked on the door, and homeroom. Teacher Liang Yuting looked back and saw Zheng Yansong and me entering. What is it? Did you guys start fighting again? Teacher, I want to apply to borrow a computer at school or go turn one on in the electronic reading room. Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting knitted her brows, turned around and asked, what do you guys need a computer for? I'm doing some things unrelated to studying, but I can guarantee that Zheng Yansong can pass the Tier 1 cutoff on the first mock exam. As those words fell, Zheng Yansong was stunned silly, nervously tugging at me as he whispered, how the hell can I pass the Tier 1 cutoff? I can't do it. Seeing this scene, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting also laughed, immediately teasing, look, even he himself doesn't believe it. Yet you expect me to believe it? If you said you yourself could score Tier 1, I'd feel like that's still possible. But how could Zheng Yansong do it? His English is a weak point, and his Chinese is also lagging behind. Wait, he just happens to lag in the exact things you excel at, right? So you're going to teach him. Teacher, I'm not just going to teach him. I will definitely make him pass the Tier 1 cutoff on the first mock exam. Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting gave this little brat a side eye, then bantered, your word doesn't count. What if he can't pass? And anyway, what on earth do you guys need a computer for? Zheng Yansong gritted his teeth and said, forget it, teacher. How about I take half a day off instead? I'll just say there's something going on at home. At this moment, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting was dumbfounded. What on earth is wrong with these two? Can't you guys just make it clear? why you need to use a computer. If I don't approve this and you want to take leave, and if leave isn't approved either, are you going to skip class? Following that, Jung Yensong replied, yes, if you don't approve it, I'll have no choice but to skip class. Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting was directly angered to the point of standing up, grabbed the two of us, brought us out to the hallway, and started scolding us. Lin Yifei, you explain first what's going on. If you can't explain it clearly, don't go to class either. Stay here until you make it clear. Jung Yensong was also completely clueless. He had no idea what I was actually trying to do. Yet I even claimed it would make him pass the Tier 1 cutoff on his first mock exam. You are a truly good teacher who genuinely looks out for her students. Liang Yuting said with a bitter laugh. All right. Don't butter the teacher up so much. Are you really going to back up that fast talk of yours? I can bring my spare laptop from home and let you use it. You just need to come to the office after class to get it from me. The problem is, what if other people ask about it? And besides the things your shop sells, might not look very good if other students and teachers see them. Hearing those words, she couldn't help giving me a side eye. I had a flash of inspiration and replied, we'll store the computer in the library, and Jung Yansong can head straight to the library after class. Liang Yuting knitted her brows, hesitated and said, I suppose that's fine, though I still feel like this isn't quite right. But she also understood Jung Yansong's family situation. I directly pressed down on Jung Yansong's head, then bowed forward and shouted, thank you, teacher. Seeing this scene, Liang Yuting truly had no other choice. She let out a sigh and said, fine, let's just do it this way. Opening the merchant backend on Thursday, I took a look, and the revenue had actually broken 300,000. Just as Jung Yansong was still excited, I said with a bitter laugh, don't get too excited. Here comes another problem. To fulfill 300,000 worth of orders, we have to put up the capital ourselves before we can ship them out. Otherwise, how are we supposed to process this? Only then did Jung Yansong nervously say, right. Just now, I wanted to mention this. I just tried it out, and it prompted that my bank card has no money left. So a lot of orders can't be fulfilled and shipped right now. What do we do? I'll figure out a way. Wait for my news. I knew there was definitely no relying on Jung Yansong's side. After all, if he had money, he would have borrowed it long ago to pay for the hospital and car accident compensation. Going to the hospital and paying for the car accident compensation. What should I do? Show my cards to my parents and tell them their son is now successful, with tens of thousands flowing in daily. I immediately dismissed this idea. Right at this moment, Wen Menqi suddenly sent a message. What are you doing? My eyes rolled, and I instantly replied, thinking of someone. Do you still have money? Shortly after Wen Menqi replied, I don't anymore. I gave it all to you. Seeing the message, my brain blanked out. It seemed I didn't know what to do either. After all, the little treasury had already been completely emptied out by myself. Unexpectedly, 10 minutes later, Wen Mengqi sent another message along with a string of numbers. The very second I saw the message, 2 words popped out of my mouth, fucking awesome. I stole my dad's card. There should be money in his card. At that moment, I felt a buzzing sensation in my head. Now, I finally understood why classmate Wen would get scammed by a scumbag in my past life. This is just way too foolish. How can there be such a foolishly cute girl? She can even steal her family members' cards out. Following that, I replied, what if you get caught? Will they call the police to arrest me? They won't. My dad has a lot of cards. He might not even notice if one goes missing. Anyway, when it gets discovered, you can just deposit the money back in. I was seriously about to be moved to tears. If I don't cherish this properly, this little rich girl really is a massive dumbass. I immediately ran to an external bank ATM and pressed the cardless transaction option, then clicked on balance inquiry. Not looking, I wouldn't know, but looking gave me a massive scare. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions. There was actually 1.45 million in this card. I couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. That is to say, including the little rich girl's entire treasury from start to finish. I had practically taken around 2 million from her. On Friday morning, I took the bus back to the school gates and brought breakfast for the little rich girl, Wen Mengqi. After returning to the classroom and waiting for quite a while, I finally saw Wen Mengqi and Jiang Shiki return to the classroom together. Then I leaned in close to Wen Mengqi's ear and whispered softly, there are too many people watching. Otherwise, I'd feed it to you. Little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, instantly blushed, lowering her head as she nibbled away with her little mouth. Afterward, 2 math classes passed. Liu Jiang hugged his basketballs and hollered at a few classmates to go outside and relax. Zheng Yansong responded, you guys go ahead. I'm going to the library. With that, he grabbed a few books and exercise workbooks and prepared to head to the library. At first, everyone laughed, saying, keep bragging. Yet unexpectedly, Zheng Yansong actually went to the library, which completely blew everyone's minds. Not only that, but during every single break after class, almost whenever there was time, Zheng Yansong would go to the library to study. This massive contrast directly made the classmates question their lives. A few minutes later, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting suddenly walked in, saying, "Before class, I have an announcement to make to everyone. A few days ago, didn't we bring up the concept of study groups?" Classmate Lin Yifei also pointed out that this study method has certain limitations. Following that, she assigned the groups according to my previous suggestions. However, right at this moment, I suddenly raised my hand and said, "Teacher, I suggest that each student can join a maximum of 2 study group subjects, making everyone's learning direction clearer, while also lightening the burden on the little teachers. Otherwise, if 30 or 40 people in a class all come over to ask questions, nobody could handle it." Liang Yuting showed an appreciative expression and said, "All right, let's do it that way." At that moment, over at the police station, the criminals had already been caught. A large crowd of parents who had been scammed out of money by the training agency had all gathered together, demanding to know why Second High's money could be retrieved, while the money from Experimental Middle School and South China Normal University, how come they can't be refunded? Suddenly, the police station turned into a complete madhouse. At this moment, a police officer let out a sigh and shouted loudly, "First, it's not that your money can't be retrieved, it's that it's currently being recovered, and it won't be that fast yet. Second, because a student from Second High reported the case, we immediately froze the scam syndicate's bank card. But this organization is very smart. They collected the tuition fees from the students of your respective schools separately. The training organization account we froze contained exclusively the money paid by the parents of Second High students. As for your accounts, by the time the police got the list of victims and went to the bank, the money had already been transferred away by someone else. So it's not that we're treating you differently, understand? To put it bluntly, not a single person among you from the other schools realized you were being scammed, whereas someone at their school noticed it, which is how the losses were successfully saved. Can you all understand when I put it this way? And as for the parents from Second High, don't thank me either. If you want to thank someone, thank the student who reported it, all right? If that student hadn't spotted the problem, I reckon your money would have been transferred away too." The police officer took a look at the file records and then said, "The reporter's name is Lin Yifei, a high school student. The victim registered in the report is Lu Ziyang, a student from Class 4, Senior 3 at Second High. Strange. How come this Lin Yifei's school registry is from First High?" The police officer let out a breath. A First High student reporting a case for a Second High student, the parents were all completely dumbfounded. Several First High parents were struck speechless. This isn't right, is it? Then how come we at First High still didn't know a large group of victimized First High students and parents were extremely furious, immediately agreeing to go to the school together to demand justice. Half an hour later, over 20 people arrived at First High's school gates, cursing all the way as they walked to the senior year classroom office. The teachers were terrified upon seeing this scene. At this time, the students were also curiously watching the teacher's office. Seeing this, physics teacher Chin Shu Hui hurriedly went up to appease them, saying, "Please tell us slowly, who exactly are you looking for? Which class? What police report?" Several parents strode out righteously and asked, "Do you know which class Lin Yifei is in?" He clearly knew the SYSU exam was a scam, yet he reported it for those Second High students, without even giving us First High students a single heads up. Now the police station says only the money scam from Second High can be retrieved. Isn't this outright screwing people over? They said Lin Yifei is a First High student, who is Lin Yifei's homeroom teacher. Step out. As those words fell, Chin Shu Hui immediately picked up her phone and called Song Wenbo. Soon homeroom teacher Song Wenbo returned to the office, and seeing this massive group of people, he was also stunned. "Who is looking for me?" The parents immediately rushed forward and surrounded Song Wenbo. "You're the homeroom teacher of that Lin Yifei class, right? Where is Lin Yifei? Today we are going to ask clearly, what on earth is wrong with him?" Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo said with a flash of realization, "Oh, you're looking for Lin Yifei, are you? Sorry, Lin Yifei has already dropped out. This kid is good at everything. It's just that he doesn't really know how to treat people properly. Shows zero respect for his superiors. Doesn't understand respect for teachers in the way, and speaks without filtering his words at all. Although I don't know what's going on, I can completely understand how you guys feel. I couldn't stand this kid when he was in our class before, so I simply directly persuaded him to drop out." Hearing that they were looking for trouble with me, homeroom teacher Song Wenbo directly treated these parents as being on the same side as him. Several parents asked in surprise, "Dropped out. Did he transfer to Second High?" Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo said, "What on earth happened to Lin Yifei that so many of you need to look for him?" I was saying, how could a student from Second High report a case for someone at First High? Why on earth did this kid drop out? If he hadn't dropped out and was still at First High, that would be great. Then our money could be refunded too. Hearing this, homeroom teacher Song Wenbo was instantly struck dumbfounded. The previous second, they were all aggressive and menacing, looking like they wanted to chop me up. How come the next second they all started feeling regretful? Suddenly, a parent muttered under their breath, "That's not right. Didn't we just hear the teacher say that you were the one who persuaded their student to drop out?" Right. He said it like that. Homeroom teacher Song Wenbo's jaw dropped and he turned to run. But the next second, he was caught by a male parent. "What? Why did you go and persuade him to drop out?" What? A flurry of rattling accusations left Song Wenbo completely out of his mind. He finally figured out what was going on. It turned out to be about the SYSU joint exam scam incident. He hurriedly explained, "Everyone listen to me. Second High being able to discover that the kids were scammed was also entirely thanks to me. I was the first one to communicate with the students and confirm that SYSU had no joint exam. Then why didn't you call the police?" Finally, after tossing and turning for over an hour, waiting until all the parents had completely left homeroom teacher, Song Wenbo sat blankly on his chair all by himself, taking a whole half hour to finally snap back to reality. He glared with wide eyes, "Lin Yifei, you asshole." In his view, all of this was my fault. Otherwise, how could he have inexplicably been hit with a barrage of complaints from these parents? He had even started to suspect that his application for senior teacher rank this year was going to fall through. Yet, right at this moment, Director of Studies Liu Qiang suddenly made a phone call over. "What on earth is wrong with you?" A huge crowd of parents made complaint calls, and they've all reached my end, asking me why Lin Yifei dropped out. Song Wenbo's mouth twitched slightly. Although he was a teacher, he truly couldn't hold it in anymore. So he began complaining into the phone. His dropping out has zero fucking relation to them. Do these people seriously have holes in their brains or what? What business is a student who has already dropped out of school to us? They were stupid enough to get themselves scammed. And then they turn around and shift the blame onto someone else. Meanwhile, I had arrived at the library and saw Zheng Yansong furiously typing away on the keyboard. Zheng Yansong looked up and smiled, saying, "It feels like we can pull in over 100,000 today too. If we can keep this up, I feel like we can really rent a warehouse and ship things out ourselves. Otherwise, third-party dropshipping takes too big a cut." You could tell that Zheng Yansong was truly fully recovered now. I smiled and replied, "Did you make plans with anyone for Christmas Eve today? If not, the two of us will find a place today to eat something good and sit down to celebrate. Looking back, if our sales volume can stabilize, we can rent a warehouse and hire people to pack orders, truly starting a company in the real sense." Mentioning the two words company gave Zheng Yansong a feeling just like being in a dream. Before even graduating high school, while everyone else was struggling hard for the college entrance exams, the two of us had actually already started a business and were even going to open a company. Zheng Yansong couldn't help glancing at me and saying, "Bro, I rarely admire someone like this, but you are seriously badass." On Saturday, the three classmates who were closest to me all came over. As everyone was chatting away, my mom suddenly said, "Your director of studies is coming." Hearing this, several students instantly put on playful, expectant expressions. Not long after, when Director of Studies Liu Qiang arrived at the front door of the house, he suddenly froze. "Director, hello, how come you came too?" Zhu Shikun asked with a cheeky grin. "Lin Yifei already dropped out, yet you even came for a home visit?" Liu Qiang smiled awkwardly and said, "You guys are all from First High, right?" Mom Hee Yakin greeted them from the side saying, "What, they're all Fei Fei's classmates from First High. Today happens to be a holiday. They just arranged to come over and hang out together. It won't bother you, Director, right?" Liu Qiang only then snapped to his senses and said, No. I just came over to sit for a while and then I'll leave." He originally still wanted to ask what on earth I talked about with those Education Bureau leaders, but as a result, the moment he saw so many students, he felt a sense of regret. As for me, I jokingly said, "Director Liu, long time no see. How is Liu Tianlei doing? Next time, call him over to hang out together." Liu Qiang's mouth twitched slightly, but he still forced a smile and said he has to prepare for the college entrance exams. That brat didn't do well on the 4-school joint exam last time, so I didn't even let him go out. Sun Fei and the others couldn't help laughing out loud, knowing full well that my relationship with Liu Tianlei was bad, yet deliberately bringing up the sore spot. Mom Hia King brought out some fruit to entertain them, saying, Director, when the time comes, are we supposed to submit the files to Second High's principal or go to the admissions office?" Only then did Liu Qiang take out my personal file and say, "Either is fine. As long as it's handed over to Second High's teachers, it's fine. Actually, when I came over today, I just wanted to find out if this kid had any unaccustomed habits. After transferring schools, if it affects his studies, his file can actually continue to stay at First High. Look, he after all already helped me sign up. Here is the new concept essay contest process. Take a look at it yourself. The competition is divided into 2 stages: the preliminary rounds and the live writing competition. The topic for the preliminary round is water cup, and contestants need to write an essay of over 2,000 words. There are still 10 days left until the submission deadline. After you finish writing, send it to me, and once I confirm there are no issues, I'll submit it. I studied the entry point of this topic for a moment. A few minutes later, when Menki sent another message, Kui. Looking at this character, I suddenly had a flash of insight. It turned out she was urging updates for my online novel. I also remembered that these past few days, due to the store's revenue issues, I had stopped updating for many days. So I smiled since the little rich girl was urging for updates. There was no reason not to update. Writing this went straight on until 12 midnight. The next day, Sunday, while video calling Wen Menki, I noticed her state didn't look quite right. So I asked, "What's wrong?" Wen Menki softly replied, "My mom won't let me." I was instantly shocked and blurted out, "Holy shit, did your mom find out about us?" Wen Menki flushed with a little face, looking wronged as she spat out 2 words, "school." I instantly understood in a second. It turned out to be about applying for universities, right? Her mom didn't agree to let her study in Beijing. Wen Menki nodded, pouting her lips in a sad manner. I let out a chuckle and laughed out loud. I might not even necessarily get into Tsinghua or Peking University. Who knows, maybe I'll go study in Shanghai too. Besides, filling out college choices is a matter for after the Gaokao. Talking about it now doesn't count for anything. Maybe once the first and second mock exam results come out, and they see your scores are good enough, they might be willing after all. When Menki grievance strickenly drew circles on the bed with her finger, and finally said, they said they want to buy me a house in Shanghai. If I remembered correctly, property prices in Shanghai for gentlemen later on would skyrocket like crazy. Hearing this, a gleam lit up in the depths of my eyes as I thought. At this moment, I finally experienced what the gap between the rich and the poor really felt like. On the first day of school after the holiday, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting called me to the dean's office. At this time, Dean Ming Fangli was sitting in the office, and looking up as she saw me walk in, she said, "Your school registration and files should be able to transfer over to Second High in about another 2 weeks. By then, you will completely be considered a student of our Second High. Our school has a tradition. At the 100-day mark before the college entrance exams, we hold a 100-day oath rally." I chatted with a few senior year teachers, and they all feel that you are quite suited to be the representative leader for this 100-day oath rally. Hearing this, I was surprised and said, "Let me do it." Dean Ming Fangli said, "What I mean is, are you willing to be this representative leader? Because this year is relatively important. The authorities have also given us an opportunity to compete for a provincial level exemplary high school. During the 100-day oath rally, there might be reporters coming over to take pictures. By then, after you guys finish your exams, you will also need to accept interviews. First, to track how the oath-taking students are doing, especially how the leading student scores turn out. Second, I feel this is also a breakthrough point for us to compete for an exemplary key high school." Following that, Ming Fangli continued, "You quarreled with First High's teachers and director of studies before dropping out. So I'll be straight with you. If you come to be the oath-taking representative leader for this rally and then score a great result, it will definitely be a blow to First High. You might feel that the teacher is being a bit scummy for saying this, but I think this is a pretty good angle and an attempt for our Second High to break through, surpass First High, and fight for the provincial level exemplary high school quota." At this moment, I paused and said, "Director, since you've already put it this way, I will definitely do a good job as this oath-taking representative leader. Right, when the time comes for the reports, remember to arrange for reporters to ask me why I dropped out from First High. I will give an objective evaluation of First High and Second High, and properly thank the teachers and leaders of First High for their guidance." Hearing this, Ming Fangli was also amused by my humor and laughed. When I returned to the classroom and mentioned the 100-day oath rally, the surrounding classmates burst into a buzz of excitement. Awesome! Being the oath representative means the teacher thinks highly of you. In the past, it was always the top-ranked student in the entire grade who went up to take the oath. "Your shoulders carry a heavy mission," I jokingly said. "Is that so?" "I think so too. However, no problem at all. Being grade first is within easy reach." Yet unexpectedly, as soon as these words were spoken, they had already spread to the next class, and even rippled across the entire school. That afternoon, even the very first sentence the physics teacher uttered in class was teasingly saying, "All right, everyone take out your previous test papers. I heard someone in our class wants to take first place in the grade, and even claimed it's within easy reach. You all need to step up your game then. It's not just Lin Yifei alone. Everyone else needs to work hard too. The mock exams are coming up very soon." The principal said he wants to see how your class's academic performance looks in the first mock exam. If the grades improve significantly, the entire School will roll out your class's study group plan. If that happens, you'll really be bringing glory to your homeroom teacher Liang Yuting. The corners of my mouth curved up slightly. The first mock exam. The first mock exam is also a citywide unified test. The test papers obtained by every school are identical, and it covers an even wider scope than the 4-school joint exam, allowing us to see the citywide rankings. On Monday afternoon, the last 2 periods were designated as self-study time for the study groups. The student teachers were already raring to go. Class monitor Chengshu counted up the number of people in all the groups and discovered that physics, chemistry, and mathematics were the 3 subjects with the most sign-ups. As the student teacher for these 3 subjects, I clapped my hands and smiled, saying, "Come, come, come. Everyone's time is also very precious. So I'm just going to unleash the ultimate killer moves, alright?" Now there are still over 100 days left until the college entrance exams. It's impossible for us to patch up all our knowledge loopholes, but there are some questions that, in my view, must be mastered 100%. Everyone must figure these out. Afterward, I explained various essential knowledge points to everyone. In the blink of an eye, Wednesday arrived. As the bell rang, the physical education teacher announced old rules. Girls run 800 meters, boys run 1500 meters, and after finishing, it's free activity. At this moment, 2 girls raised their hands with blushing faces. "Teacher, we're not feeling well today." Then Liu Xiang also raised his hand with a cheeky grin and said, "Teacher, I'm not feeling well either." The PE teacher walked right up and kicked him, cursing, "Get lost. You run 2 kilometers for me?" During the last PE class, Zhang Yansong had run right at the very front the entire time. But this time it was strange. He was actually way in the back. This left the girls watching nearby completely stunned. Why does Zhang Yansong seem to be hanging out with Lin Yifei all the time lately? Furthermore, Zhang Yansong has been running off to the library every single day after class recently. Meanwhile, while running, Zhang Yansong was reporting the situation of the e-commerce store to me. I also shared my idea of starting a company with him. Yet right at this moment, Liu Zhang also came running over, curiously asking, "What on earth are you 2 plotting in secret? And when did your relationship get so good anyway?" Zhang Yansong gave him a side eye and said, "Get lost. None of your business." Liu Xiang refused to give up, saying, "What do you mean, get lost? You're totally defecting right now. When I call you to go smoke, you don't even ignore me. What on earth is so great about the library that you run there every single day?" I half-jokingly replied, "In books you'll find jade-like beauties. In books you'll find houses of gold. You seriously don't get it." Zhang Yansong chimed in, "You better hurry up and study hard too. Otherwise, you're gonna be wasted." Liu Xiang's mind went blank. If anyone else had said these words, he would have just treated it like blowing hot air. But that was Zhang Yansong, the #1 legend of smoking behind school gates. Skipping classes, playing truant, smoking, and fighting. Zhang Yansong had a hand in almost everything. And now he was telling him to study hard. Liu Jiang asked in shock, "Lin Yifei, what kind of love potion did you give him anyway? This change is way too exaggerated. Are you too gay or something?" I let out a chuckle and cracked a grin. "Alright, stop messing around with that crap." "Right, nobody laugh at the girls running later," Liu Xiang said speechlessly. "But the way they run is seriously hilarious. And so goofy," as he said that Liu Xiang even imitated it. Then I immediately kicked him over. Liu Xiang almost tumbled to the ground. And turning back with wide eyes, he yelled, "What are you doing?" Seeing that the 2 of them were about to come to blows, the girls nearby were startled. "Look, Lin Yifei is about to fight with Liu Xiang." Consequently, they got busted by the PE teacher and penalized with 10 laps. A large group of female students were gossiping away. Moreover, the reason for the 2 of them fighting was also particularly strange. It turned out to be because Liu Xiang mocked the girls, yet only Wen Menqijiang Shike and a few other girls who had been teased before knew the truth. So what if your grades are good? What's so great about that? Why on earth do we have to listen to you?" Liu Xiang cursed as he ran. Originally, because of his embarrassing incident during the last SYSU joint exam, he was already feeling a little ticked off, and even had to listen to people talking about it from time to time. Now he still had to get kicked by the guy. By the time I ran the 6th lap, I was already completely exhausted, with my entire body drenched in sweat. At this moment, the little rich girl, Wen Mengqi, ran over and handed me a bottle of water, whispering softly, "Sorry." I panted as I smiled and said, "What the heck? It has nothing to do with you." Zhang Shiki chimed in enviously from the side. "But they all say you beat him up just because you wouldn't let Liu Xiang laugh at us running." I acknowledged it with a hum and replied, "Pretty much. You can laugh at anyone else, but you can't laugh at our family's Wen student." Just like that, an entire PE class was wasted. And even before school ended, I was summoned over to the teacher's office by the homeroom teacher. "Speak, why did you fight?" Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting glanced at me curiously. After all, it's really rare for a top student to get into fights. Yet this kid had only transferred over for a single month and had already caused 2 incidents. This time he even threw hands right during PE class. Liu Jiang said with a stiff face, "Teacher, he kicked me first, and I didn't even provoke him. He kicked me first, and I didn't even provoke him. Totally out of nowhere. What a complete psycho." I furrowed my brow slightly and said in a low voice, "Teacher, it was me who started it. It's my fault." As those words fell, Liu Jiang was also stunned. He originally thought I would talk back and argue a bit. Who would have thought I'd just admit it straight up? Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting didn't know whether to laugh or cry either. "Then tell me why you started it. I believe you aren't the type to hit people without any reason at all." I spoke in a flat tone. I told him to stop laughing at the girls running and he wouldn't listen. And he kept mocking the girls' running movements. So I gave him a kick. Hearing this, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting immediately understood what was going on and said in a cold tone, "Even so, you still can't hit people." Hearing that, Liu Jiang chimed in and said fiercely, "Exactly. Big deal." Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting then glanced sideways at Liu Jiang and reprimanded, "You stand right there and get your parents to come pick you up." Weren't those just childish behaviors that little kids do? Yet what Liu Jiang admired the most was that it was actually selling anime and monster lingerie. This was simply a project that got him extremely hyped up, to the point where he couldn't help cursing out loud right on the phone. "You're truly fucking a genius." At this moment in Liu Jiang's eyes, I was no longer just a study, god and nothing more, but an insanely badass big boss. Afterwards, he even leaned right up to my ear and whispered, "I can also go to the library right after every class too." Seeing this, the students in the class doubted their entire lives. In the morning, not only did Liu Jiang apologize to me, but every time the class bell rang, Zheng Yen-sung would head to the library, while Liu Jiang actually also grabbed a book and said he was going to the library too. A bunch of male classmates were staring at each other with wide eyes, having a feeling like they were dreaming. Why was it that anyone who had a conflict with me suddenly changed into a completely different person as if they took the wrong medicine? Even Liu Jiang had actually started applying himself and striving for improvement. Finally, Zhang Shiki sitting in front couldn't hold back her curiosity either and asked, "What on earth kind of drug did you feed them? This is too unbelievable." You might not know this, but in the past, Liu Jiang and Zheng Yansong, let alone going to the library, would sometimes even ditch class to go play basketball. Shortly after, homeroom teacher Liang Yuting announced, "So, the first mock exams and New Year's Day are both moved up. Our class only needs to put on one performance." Hearing this, I directly proposed to cancel my magic performance. Wen Mengqi paused for a moment, looking a bit wronged, obviously wanting to say something, but in the end, she still didn't say it out loud. Looking at Wen Mengqi's expression, I knew she actually didn't want to perform solo either, so I immediately wrote a note, "We'll do your performance together, both of us. We'll do a piano and vocal duet. I just thought of this right now too. I'll write the lyrics and sing, and you just need to play the piano." Guo Mengqi was completely dumbfounded. Since she studied music after all, she certainly knew how hard it was to write a song. After a class ended, Arts and Culture Committee member Yan Ziki ran over and said, "Oh, Lin Yifei's performance is cancelled, so you're the only one left to go up. Before this week is over, tell me the name of the piece you're playing. I need to submit the report." Wen Mengqi said in a shy, quiet voice, "I don't know either." Then she turned around and glanced at me sitting beside her. Following that, I slowly replied, "Classmate Yan, when you submit it, just submit it as a duet and vocal performance. Wen Mengqi and I are going up on stage together to sing a song titled Decency, an original self-composed song." Arts and Culture Committee member Yan Ziki was dumbfounded. "What? An original song? Did you guys write this song yourselves?" "Yeah, I wrote it." Hearing this, Zhang Shiki sitting in front was also dumbfounded and blurted out, "Holy crap, Lin Yifei, you even know how to write your own songs." As those words fell, the surrounding classmates instantly swarmed over to eat melons. Then Wen Mengqi and I both went to find homeroom teacher Liang Yuting to borrow the school's piano room for rehearsals. Homeroom teacher Liang Yuting hesitated and said, "This might be a bit difficult because we seniors don't have music classes. How about this? You guys ask teacher Chen from the arts class. He should have the key to the piano room on hand." Soon the two of us arrived at the entrance of the arts class. Arts class teacher Chen Qian politely said, "Because I have classes here, I can't give you the piano room key directly. If you really want to borrow it, you can ask the Dean of Studies to write a note for me, and then I'll give you the key, okay?" Hearing this, a gleam lit up in my eyes as I said, "Wait a second. I have the director's phone number." Right after, I dialed the phone right in front of the teacher, explaining the whole sequence of events from beginning to end. As those words fell, Chen Qian was also somewhat surprised, not expecting this student to actually be able to reach the director directly. Not long after I finally got the key to the piano room, then I wrote down the lyrics and gave them to Wen Menki. Wen Menki drew a blank musical staff in her small notebook, and then listened to the tune I was humming to tentatively figure out the melody of the song. In about an hour or so, she had already written out the music. Over the following few days, we went to the piano room to rehearse almost every single day, and finally managed to sing out the performance effect we wanted. At this moment, Chinese teacher Luo Wengshuan stood on the podium and spoke, saying, "Lin Yifei, come over here for a moment. The essay you handed in to me is indeed not bad. I've already submitted it for you. If you make it to the preliminary rounds, you'll need to go compete on site. So you should keep that in mind." Meanwhile, a tall, sturdy sports student was standing inside First High's campus. Chen Siru walked over timidly and coyly. Ever since she watched my speech at the literature club last time, she had suddenly become infatuated with me and even read the web novel posted on Tiaba several times over. The more she read, the more hooked she got. So before she even realized it, she had already forgotten about her suitor, Liu Tianlei. Liu Tianlei said softly, "I want to dedicate a song to you during the cultural performance, and I know you really love listening to this song." "What song?" "I won't tell you that for now. You'll know when the time comes." After chatting for a bit, Chen Siru returned to the classroom, and her seatmate couldn't help starting up some gossip. "What did he want with you?" "He said during the cultural performance, he prepared a song for me." As those words fell, the entire class erupted in a buzz of excitement. Even Sun Fei couldn't help sending me a message. "Fighting with you. That Dean of Studies' son is coming to hit on Chen Siru, and he even prepared a song to gift her at the New Year's gala." So what? What does that have to do with me? If it were my past life, I definitely wouldn't have lacked a round of rants. Back then, I got slapped with a disciplinary record precisely because of Liu Tianlei, making us basically sworn enemies. The most important thing was that Chen Siru even helped speak up for the other guy. At this moment, I suddenly remembered, indeed, Liu Tianlei had sung a song during the cultural performance. However, back then, I didn't know that song was sung for Chen Siru. It seemed the two of them already had an ambiguous relationship. Before graduation, no wonder that after college, even though the two weren't at the same school, news of them dating leaked out. The most interesting part was that, from start to finish, Chen Siru kept telling me she didn't feel a single thing for Liu Tianlei, and even claimed she just got scared of getting disciplined at the time, which was why she didn't spill the truth and so on. I never actually expected I used to be this stupid back in the day. No wonder after graduation during several class reunions, I was always the butt of the joke for everyone's gossip. I even remembered how I was mocked back then. When I attended that class reunion, I accidentally overheard other classmates talking. "You know what? Chen Siru and Liu Tianlei got together. I saw them even go on a trip to Sanya together." I remember back then Chen Siru seemed to be dating Lin Yifei, right? Look at him. He's not doing so well these days either. Hey, Lin Yifei was such a total simp back then. When I heard this dialogue, my entire being instantly crashed. Now, the more I thought about it, the more I felt that my past self was simply too ridiculous and too pathetic. At this moment, a brand new idea suddenly popped into my head, and that scene on the bus flashed across my mind. Since Chen Siru apologized to me and even asked me out to dinner, doesn't this mean that perhaps I have a chance to turn the tables and take revenge on this campus belle who ruined my life? A crazy idea sparked in my mind, that is to make Chen Siru fall madly in love with me and become my own simp, and then make Liu Tianlei also feel what it's like to be strung along by a woman. The next day, as soon as I arrived at the school gates, I already saw the stage set up on the playground. After returning to the classroom, I moved Wen Menki's desk and chair along with mine downstairs. After waiting for about 10 minutes or so, I saw Wen Menki and a few female students walking over to the playground. I stood up and waved, having Wen Menki sit right beside me. Right at this moment, the English teacher walked over and said, "Today, the two of you are the main characters of our class. How is it? Are you prepared enough?" Wen Menki blushed and said softly, "Teacher, I'm still so nervous." "No need to be nervous. Yi Fei plays so well." At the time, several of us teachers were completely blown away. So it'll definitely be fine. I heard that last night. Lin Yifei even went canvassing for votes in his Tiba web novel. Is that right? Then you've got to give it your all. Your fan base of younger schoolmates is totally keeping their eyes on you. Meanwhile, the atmosphere at First High was also quite lively. Both schools had chosen to hold their cultural galas on the very same day. At this point, Dean of Studies Liu Qiang and Song Wenbo murmured nearby. For this mock exam, the person in charge of writing the composition test questions is an old professor. He really likes coming up with essay prompts about human nature and reflection. Later on, have the students prepare more from this perspective. For this exam, we need to widen the gap with Second High as much as possible. After all, our first high's college admission rate is right here. We can't let them surpass us in grades to the other classes. You should also drop a hint to their homeroom teachers, no? But make sure it doesn't spread out. Especially that kid who transferred over to second high. And the classmates who hang out with him, you must brief these students well and not let the news leak to second high. The two of them exchanged a glance, both revealing smiles. Song Wenbo instantly caught on in a second and couldn't help asking one more question. How is it? I heard when you went to visit Lin Yifei's home, you wanted to get him to come back to first high, only for this kid to make you write a 3,000-word self-criticism. Hearing this, Liu Cheng's face instantly turned pitch black. He put on a stiff expression and said, "When was that?" It's simply preposterous. Not long after the New Year's cultural gala officially began. Hey, it's Liu Tianlei's turn up on stage. Suddenly, a boy from the next class shouted out excitedly, the god of songs. The Song King is here, the girls of senior. Class 2 also began to get stirred up, and they all couldn't help glancing over toward Chen Xiru's position. After all, everyone knew that Liu Tianlei said he prepared a song for her. A few love-brained female classmates eagerly teased, "How romantic. He's singing it exclusively for you, you know." Chen Xiru also replied with a shy, timid voice, "No way. Stop talking nonsense." Yet even so, her heart was already bursting with joy. She secretly raised her head and glanced over toward Liu Tianlei on the stage. At this moment, Liu Tianlei on stage cleared his throat loudly and began speaking. "Today, I'm bringing everyone the song Wishing to Obtain One's Heart." And then he subconsciously looked toward the direction of senior class 2. As the music began to play, Liu Tianlei also started singing on stage. At this moment, Sun Fei recorded this song and sent it to me. Seeing the video and the song title made me smile. This was a problem I should have realized long ago. Yet I had acted completely like an absolute fool, and if I didn't remember incorrectly, Liu Tianlei even won a second place prize. After finishing the song, Liu Tianlei still intentionally looked over toward Chen Xiru in the audience. Meanwhile, second high's cultural gala was also underway. Unlike first high, the very second the host on stage announced the 3 words, Lin Yifei, the entire school erupted in a frenzy. After all, back when I was at the literature club, I had already publicly revealed that I was that novel author on Tiba. Moreover, the video of my open lecture at the literature club got frantically upvoted and liked on T-Boss, so my popularity and recognition were still pretty decent. Seeing the thunderous applause sweeping across the entire venue, even the homeroom teacher of senior class 4 was startled. The director and the principal were chatting anxiously and discussing heatedly. Shortly after, the staff members carefully pushed the piano onto the stage. At this moment, Wen Menqi was extremely nervous, as she completely hadn't expected the cheers from below to be so loud. I could also tell the little rich girl was nervous, so I proactively went up, took Wen Menqi's hand and walked up on stage. While walking, I whispered softly in her ear, "It's fine. You can do this. If you're scared, just close your eyes. And think about how it felt when we practiced in the piano room. Plus the cheers are all focused on me, so you don't need to be nervous." After getting on stage, I bowed to the leaders and teachers in the audience, then took the microphone from the host's hands, nodded with a smile and said, "Hello everyone. I am Lin Yifei from senior class 4. Today, I feel a bit overwhelmed by this unexpected favor. Not expecting so many classmates to support and encourage me. I'm bringing everyone an original song, with lyrics and composition by myself, titled Decency." At this moment, I already saw many students holding their phones high to record, and there were even professional cameras down in the audience aiming right at me. I pursed my lips into a smile, looked back at Wen Menqi sitting beside the piano, and nodded to signal her. Wen Menqi took a deep breath, and finally began to play. As the music began to play, I instantly immersed myself in the emotion, slowly closing my eyes, as my mind recalled the scene of getting disciplined at school in my past life, the scene of being pointed at and gossiped about by my classmates at school, the scene of receiving a school-wide criticism and self-criticism, the scene of failing the college entrance exams and crying alone hiding in my room, the scene of holding my botched exam results after graduation and zoning out in the university dorm, and finally the scene at the class reunion, where everyone joked about and mocked me. Then I sang with deep passion. When it ended, I took a bow. Everyone in the entire school stood up in a roaring wave of applause. Even the school's director and the vice principal stood up to applaud. Afterwards, I pulled Wen Menqi down from the stage. The applause never stopped, all the way until the two of us returned to our seats. Yet nobody expected that my song would directly win first place in the entire school during the New Year's cultural gala. Later on, 2 music teachers and 1 arts teacher all heaped praise without end. Especially the arts teacher Chen Chengqian. Our school was actually able to give birth to a student capable of writing his own songs. And furthermore, both the lyrics and the performance are quite moving. I think nobody could possibly question them winning this award. Congratulations, congratulations. After the host announced that the New Year's Gala had successfully concluded. After the hosts Lin Yifei and Wen Mengqi announced that the New Year's Gala had successfully concluded, the entire senior class 4 burst into cheers. No way, I feel like I'm about to fall for you. A female student couldn't help blurting out this sentence, then shyly and hastily explained, My meaning is like a fan to an idol. Everyone around let out a fit of laughter. Even Shen Yue, who had always harbored a crush on me before, couldn't help revealing an expression of deep admiration. He was simply too perfect. A top student and talented prodigy, able to sing, write songs, and write web novels, with grades even landing in the top 10 of the grade. At that very moment, she even began to envy Wen Mengqi standing right beside me. Prior to this, Shen Yue had always refused to accept it and felt that Wen Mengqi wasn't good enough. But now she was completely envious and jealous of her. At this moment, English teacher and homeroom teacher Liang Yuting nearby smiled and said, That was amazing. It's truly beyond expectations. Did the two of you write this song together? Wen Mengqi shook her head, pointed at me, and said softly he wrote it. Then I replied softly, if it were just me alone, it would have been impossible for me to pull off singing this song. Classmate Wen is extremely brilliant and outstanding. I just hummed the melody and lyrics to her, and she was able to take the tune and map out the musical staff, and even play the piece on the piano. Therefore, this song can be considered completed by both of us together. Hearing this, Wen Mengqi stared blankly at me beside her, because she knew that she really hadn't done much of anything, and that I had completely spearheaded and driven all of this. As for me, I smiled and pinched Wen Mengqi's nose, then leaned in close to her ear, and whispered, It was precisely because we performed it together that this song exists, isn't that right? If I sang it solo, I wouldn't have this kind of effect at all. Wen Mengqi lowered her head, wanting to refute, but didn't know what to say either. Seeing this scene, quite a few classmates started applauding and cheering. Everyone realized they had underestimated Wen Mengqi. Turns out this female student who usually didn't talk much and lacked any real presence was also exceptionally talented. That very night, everyone uploaded the video online. Without a doubt, for the students of First High, today's biggest gossip and most gossiped about topic was naturally the song Wishing to Obtain One's Heart sung by the sports student Liu Tianlei. After all, Liu Tianlei had even intentionally claimed it was dedicated to Chen Xiru. At this moment, the senior class 2 group chat was insanely lively, with everyone talking about the topic of Chen Xiru and Liu Tianlei, praising and envying them endlessly, pumping Chen Xiru's vanity full to the brim. Right at this moment, someone suddenly exclaimed in shock, Hey! Go check out Second High's Taiba board. It looks like Lin Yifei is singing too.